Hello and welcome to the third episode of Lucy and Ether's book. Damn. Never mind. Lucy and Ether's Midnight Book Club.
Damn.
What's going on, girl? Anyway.
What a cold open.
It's book club time.
Fuck.
Oh.
I feel like that really sets the tone for this month's book.
Yeah.
Lucy and Angel's Midnight Book Club. We're here again. It's a time. I'm your host, Lucy, along with my another amazing host, Angel.
Oh. We have
a guest star.
Oh, hooray, a guest.
A guest
Hi.
star.
They left the key to the studio under the doormat. I just sort of let myself in.
Yeah, she just showed up and now we don't know what to do.
Yeah. I was crying too hard. I felt bad they wouldn't kick me out.
So this is our illustrious friend named Penguin.
Hello.
And Penguin is here to discuss our book of the month with us. Before we get into it, yes you are. Before we get into it, I just want to say, I hope you all had a happy Pride. I hope you had a fun Pride. You stayed safe. You had a good time. Because that's all that matters in Pride Month. Having a damn good time and being gay. As you should. We, on the other hand, picked probably the saddest gay tragedy for Pride Month.
We should make a choice.
We made a choice. Certainly so. But we picked The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And man, oh man, Greek tragedy, sad gays, tragic gays. That is for absolutely sure. As is per usual, we'll do our little non-spoiler section, and then we'll get to the spoilers and get into more in-depth thoughts. So, first and foremost, if we pronounce names wrong, we're not gonna make fun of people. Greek names are hard.
Don't make fun of me just because I've got an accent.
Listen, some of these names are a fucking struggle.
They are a problem.
To be honest.
And I wasn't a Greek myth kid. I don't know how many of y'all were a Greek myth kid, but it wasn't me. So
I wasn't a Greek myth kid. I was an Egypt kid, but I did take ancient history in high school, which I almost failed. But you know,
and
that's
how
I was in the class.
I was a Percy Jackson kid, like through and through. Did I ever finish the series?
hell
No,
yeah.
but
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was very into it when I was younger.
I actually had to study the first Percy Jackson book in my English class one
you had
year.
to study it. That's crazy.
It made it a lot less fun.
Oh.
that's
I had
horrid.
to watch
Why
the
did they
first
do that to
movie
you?
too. I know, right?
Okay, Song of Achilles. What's it about? We gotta talk about what it's about, vaguely.
It is a retelling of the Greek myth in regards to Achilles and his companion, as they like to call in this book, Patroclus, and the fight in Troy. It's not necessarily. Is it? Would you call it the Trojan War? I don't know.
It's a retelling of the Iliad.
Yes, it
It's
is the
retelling-
Trojan War, and it is technically a retelling of parts of the Iliad.
Mhm. Yes.
Because I don't think this is the entirety of the Iliad. Because like there's
Just
some other
Achilles.
stuff.
No, it isn't.
It's just like
Just Achilles.
Achilles part.
Yeah, well,
of
the
it.
Iliad is just sort of like it's just like some guy following all the cool guys around and saying how much he likes Patroclus. But the Song of Achilles is more focuses on Achilles and Patroclus's relationship and frames the story through that lens, if you will.
And this book is roughly about like 370 pages long.
Mhm.
So it's I feel if you are a Greek myth person, it would be a pretty quick read for you. Personally, for me, Greek myths always feel a little like intimidating to read. They're a little bit much for me. The language used is a little difficult to get into, and the way Madeline Miller writes is very beautiful, very gorgeous. It is so intricate, though. It's a little intimidating to start, but once you do and you're in it, you should be okay. Especially, I read along with the audiobook, and I found the audiobook helped a lot. If this kind of style of writing is hard for you to get into, try the audiobook out and read along if you like. I found it to be incredibly helpful. Also helpful with names, because that guy, the guy who read the audiobook was pronouncing the hell out of those names. I was like, thank you, King. This is what I needed.
See, with me, when I read names, that's between me and God. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
well,
exactly.
I didn't use the audiobook. I just read the book, the acoustic book, in about 3 hours because I read freakishly fast.
That's what the what the hell?
Dude, I read it in one sitting. My poor family, they just saw me on the couch like sobbing, and they were like, "Nah, she's probably fine.
She's okay.
She'll be right."
I will say, you don't necessarily have to have knowledge of the Iliad to read this, but I do think it adds something, especially because he's not like... Odysseus is out here fucking around a lot in this book, and I think...
Well, he was in the Iliad.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I think having knowledge of, like, the Iliad puts a little bit more of some of the characters into perspective, but, like, it's not a necessary read going into
Passing knowledge is helpful.
Yes.
I think. Like, I had barely any knowledge of the Iliad before I started, or the Odyssey, much to my, history teacher's chagrin. But I think it is a very, very good book in that it's completely fine to go in with zero knowledge.
Yes.
But, like, everyone knows who Achilles is. 90% of people will know who Odysseus is.
Everyone...
Like, you'll know someone.
Everyone has seen that one Brad Pitt movie, right?
That one. The one where they were cousins.
The one where they were
classic
cousins.
ditty. The one where they were.
As far as thoughts on the book, it is not as hard to read as the Iliad is.
Of course,
I read the Iliad in high school and I liked it, but my god, it was a struggle. This is put in like semi-modern terms. There is a couple of times where she like puts like a translation note essentially, where like a character will say something and then we'll say like the word I used was this word, which means this, which was helpful.
I liked it.
Yes. She doesn't do it often, but there was a few times that she did, and I was like, slay, that makes sense.
I love that.
Otherwise, I mean, it's not modernized, but it is written for a modern audience, if that makes sense.
It's a little bit... Is archaic the correct word? It's a bit, written, like ye olde times, but
like a modern
in a way that's still understandable
person.
to a modern audience.
Yes.
Yeah, a modern person writing ye old scripture. I will also say, you might, if you have a physical copy,
who swears at one point. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know they invented that yet.
I will also say, if you have a physical copy, you might have a copy with a character glossary in the back that talks about the gods, the immortals, and the mortal characters. And I found that to be a little helpful. I thought that was really, really nice to put in if you don't have an already knowledge of it. It was nice to have that in the back. I was like, this is cool. Thank you very much, Madeline. You were out here doing the damn thing.
It also gives like a good sized paragraph about most of these characters. And yeah, even the ones that are just kind of mentioned in passing, Odysseus has a good long
A good long little section.
yeah.
In the other one.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. I thought that was a nice touch, especially for people who are. If this is a stepping stone for some people to get into Greek myth, I can't speak to if this is entirely accurate to Greek myth. I can't say how good of a representation this is, but this might be a stepping stone for some people to get more into it and learn more and start reading more legends and myths and stories. And I think having some info like that in the back is a nice little touch to give people like a starting point of which legends sound interesting to them, which gods sound the coolest, whatever, or which which of the like kings sound interesting. I appreciate that. I think it's a nice little touch to have in this book. It's really cool. But all around, the contents of the story and the way it is written is so gorgeous. Her writing style, I haven't read anything like it.
It's the best prose I have ever seen, and I've read a lot of books.
It really is gorgeous prose. The way she describes things, and like the comparisons she makes, the words used, it's all beautiful. She writes the way these two love each other so gorgeously, it could make you weep. Even without the tragedy, just the way it is worded, it can make you weep. Exactly. There were a couple points where it wasn't even sad yet, and I got misty-eyed because it was just the most beautiful way of describing love and appreciation for another person. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. But the content,
and nothing bad happened to either of them.
They live
bad.
Thanks for joining us on this episode.
Nothing bad happens.
It is beautifully written. I do like the pacing of this book. I like the way that it kind of picks up speed, like as you get towards the end of the book. Like a big bulk of the book is like Achilles and Patroclus growing up, and like the time they spend on the mountain, and like, you know, when they were kids and stuff. And then once you get into like the war coming and stuff, then like suddenly we're picking up momentum very quickly, and it's like, if you know about the myth, you already know how it's going to end, and it feels like you're on a train that you can't stop, that is just picking up speed and heading straight for the side of a mountain.
Yeah, I like it. It adds like a sort of frantic energy to the preparations for the Trojan War.
Yes. Even though like they talk about like, how fucking long they were there for, just because of like how it's written, you still feel this like weird like burning urgency the closer you get to the end of the book, which I think is a good touch, and I think it really drives home the point at the end.
It takes a lot of skill to span 11 years of plot without feeling like you've missed anything and keeping the pacing up.
In such a, like, this is, for some people this is a long book, and for others it's a fairly like short, easy read. To put 11 years worth of stuff in about 369 pages, and feel like it was paced well, is a hard feat to do, and I think she did it well. I think she definitely did it. Sorry. But my favorite parts of the book were really the beginning, and there came a point while I was reading it personally where I was just like, I'm having so much fun, I don't want to keep going, because I know it's coming, and I don't want to do it. But
I was doing good. I'm trying to do my best to keep it spoiler free for the next few minutes. I was doing great until Odysseus pulled the fire alarm. And then I was like, oh no.
I pulled the fire alarm.
Well, you know.
That's a really good way to describe it, honestly. I won't get into who it is yet, because we'll get into that in the spoilers. There are so many haters in this book. There's so many haters. They were being homophobic during Pride Month, and I found that to be despicable.
Dude.
So many haters. They were preying on these boys' downfall.
So funny.
They were being haters.
I know they're meant to be like this big. I just found it funny because they just pull up, be like, and just fuck off. It would be awesome.
Literally, it was just like a random thing. They would pull up, do something that would like make these poor boys' lives more difficult, and then be like, "All right, fuck you, bye."
Yeah,
and
it'd just be
they're
like
just
drive
meant to
by
live
and
with
be
it.
like, gay, and then speed off.
There's also just so many moments where they're like, there's so much like alluding to what's going on. Like, I heard Achilles is never like, somebody says something like, I didn't even know Achilles was into women.
Yeah,
I think that's Odysseus, actually.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't even know you liked girls.
No, you liked women.
Odysseus
Like an
is just
icon,
like,
honestly.
Odysseus is just so chill about most things for like.
He's so cool.
Odysseus is just
so
a guy.
Cool.
He's just a guy, and I love him for it.
That's
He
like,
is just some dude.
that's also just like how he is in the Iliad too, and the Odyssey. Like, he really is just chilling. Like,
He's so cool.
and he's just a guy who loves his wife.
He is just a
Yeah.
guy who loves his wife, loves her, and it is so nice to see in a world like this a man who just loves his wife, because so many of these men do not like their wives.
Oh, just
And
women.
it's so nice. Just
general.
women, period. It's a bad time for the girly pops out there. In this time period, it's a bad time, but
Yeah, that's how I
it's-
would describe ancient Greece, probably.
it's a bad time for women. But it was really nice to see Odysseus, who genuinely loved his wife, spoke about her like she hung the stars in the sky. It was really, really sweet.
Every
And
time
he's
he's on
just-
screen, he's either talking about his wife, talking about wanting to be with his wife, or doing shenanigans.
Exactly. And who could
That's
blame
the kind
him?
of man
You
I can
know,
get behind.
that's the kind of guy I could root for. Odysseus is genuinely a light of comedy and, like, you know, lightheartedness in this story, because there's not very much of that, especially the further you get towards the end. There's not a lot.
You need it so bad. By the
You
end.
need it. You need his, like, comedic little timings and his little quips and just him being nice and talking about like his wife and stuff like that. You need that so bad towards the end of this book, and he pops in at absolutely just the right moments.
There's a bit pretty close to the end, which I'm tap dancing on one side of the spoiler line here. I don't know if you two remember, but he has a conversation and then he's like, "Yep, I tried," and then he just leaves.
Yeah.
That was really funny to me, and I really needed that because of the emotional state that I was in. The fact that he's just like, "Oh well, later."
Did my job.
he fucked off.
I'm gonna go home now. See ya.
Yeah,
Gotta go home with my
later.
wife.
Gotta go see the wife.
Okay, real quick, give your non-spoiler just a rating out of 5, and then we'll talk about the spoiler stuff.
Okay.
Are we
I
allowed
would
to do
say-
6? Because this is my favorite book. So I am biased.
Yeah, we would permit such a thing. I think you're allowed.
Okay, yeah, there you go. 6 out of 5 is my rating.
So
I do
for
have
you, it's
smarter
absolutely
thoughts. If you want to give your number, Lucy.
I would say probably for somebody, especially said it multiple times throughout this, who's never looked into Greek myth. I never had to read it in school. I never had to do anything with it, and I never had the urge to until this. I would give it a like clean 4 out of 5. Do I know what would make it a full 5? No, but I would give it a 4. No, actually, I know what my reason for 4 out of 5. There were too many haters. Okay, there were too many homophobic ass haters, and I wanted them.
There's
to
like
stop.
one main one, and then the
There's,
rest
like-
is just Greece.
Yeah, and I wanted them to stop. But also the being made to cry as hard as I did, Madeline Miller, you've committed crimes. You've committed crimes to me. So I would say a 4 out of 5. I found it to be an absolutely glorious book. It is beautifully done. Made me feel every emotion absolutely possible. I didn't know a book could like make me feel things as intensely as this one did, in the style of writing and with the story content itself. I didn't know Greek myths could do that to me, but apparently they can. So I find it to be a very lovely book. Even if it's not the most accurate portrayal of this myth, it's still a good time. Good time is a bad word for this. It's a time that will affect you and make you think for a while, and it probably will never leave you. So even if it's not accurate, fucking read it anyway. Who cares? It's fun to read things.
I would give this book a 5. This is my second read through of it, and it is super well done. The writing is beautiful. I really like the pacing, and I am someone who's all for like the exploration of myth, not necessarily just Greek, but myth in general, through like a queer lens. That was something that I was taught in high school, and it's something I still really enjoy. And I think the Song of Achilles does it really well, while keeping in line with what would have been considered normal or like societally acceptable in those times, because it's not like everything's just hunky-dory, oh they're gay. Like there is still a level of like people are looking at them weird and people make comments about it, and things like that still keeps in line with the times. But at the same time, like, we're not leaning the opposite direction where they're fucking cousins, because that's weird. So I would give it a 5. I think Madeline Miller's a gorgeous writer. The writing in this book is wonderful. The queer lens that the myth is viewed through, I think, is done really well. Yeah, I really like this book. So now we can get into the spoilery
Wait, can I give my
parts.
proper...
Yes, go on.
Can I give my actual review before I explode in here with a 6 and no justification? Okay. Oh boy. I actually, to sort of punctuate this point, I have a photo of myself that I took immediately after finishing this book. I'm going to send it to both of you just because I think it encapsulates my thoughts, I think. Where are you? I have Ika. I don't have... Oh, sweet Jesus. So, this book was a wild ride. I am someone who reads... I was fucked up, dude. I read a lot of books. Like, a lot of books. And books don't make me cry. Books don't really make me feel anything, because it's a book, you know? I read this book in one sitting, in about 3 hours. Could not put it down. I was weeping by the end of it. Weep like a war widow. It has the best prose that I have ever seen, like anywhere. It builds spoilers for the Iliad, I guess, if you haven't read that. It builds on the themes of the Iliad, which the main thing in the Iliad is that Achilles is a prick. Like that's the whole point. Like it gets to his head. That's just a boy, because he's quietly check notes 16 when he goes to the Trojan War. Like that's a teenager. Of course he's going to be a dickhead.
Yep.
But by reframing it through the lens of Patroclus as a narrator, of course he's going to seem really lovely, because the only person who he likes is telling the story. I just thought that was a really wonderful touch. Yeah, the pacing is fantastic. It's great to see myths retold with a more focus on queer stories. Especially one that is, and I use the word historically loosely here, sort of rooted in, history, fact. Like, both of them existed, citation needed, and they were a couple. So, that time, they weren't cousins, I think. Yeah, there's more thoughts on that. Well, I was on Pinterest the other day, and someone in the comments of some really nice fan art was like, actually, Patroclus was his nephew, and I'm like, I'm just not gonna... I'm choosing not to see that. I don't think that's true
correct.
either, but also, no, thank you.
Keep that to yourself.
There you go. 6 out of 5. Oh boy, I'm gonna cry by the end of this session, aren't I? Fuck. Oh boy.
Now we can get into the spoiler stuff.
Spoilery spoilers.
Yay.
Thetis is the worst.
Fuck that bitch.
God, she's kind of iconic though.
She is kind of
She's
iconic.
such a
Okay.
hater.
Here's the
I
thing.
know, but it's so funny.
Here's the thing about Thetis is that, like, on one hand, there is something like empathetic about her as a character, right? Like, she was assaulted essentially because of some promise that some other god made, and she becomes tied to humans in a way that she never wanted to be, and she, in some weird fucked up way, cares about Achilles. But because we're being told the story through Patroclus, it's this constant thing where she shows up, she goes, "I fucking hate you," and then leaves.
It's really funny because she just pulls up out of the sea like gay ass and then leaves.
She literally is just like, "I'm here to see my son. You're never gonna be good enough for him. Fuck you, bye," and then goes. And you're just like, okay, uncalled for, but all right, queen, you know, do what you need to do. I guess.
I think a lot of her behavior you could chalk up to, obviously, like Ether said, she's tied to humans in a way that she doesn't want to be, but it's pretty obvious that as soon as Achilles turned 18 or whatever, nervous look at the Greeks for what their age of consent would have been ish, she would have just scarpered, like she would have fucked off. But because he's called to war before he's, air quotes, an adult, she kind of has to get involved with him and with, the prophecy and the whole dying before 30 thing. And because I think she does care about him, but she wants him to be great.
Yeah.
Because if, she's got this assault baby and she has to see him and his dad every so often, might as well make him famous, like, because to be tied to that myth will make her immortal. And, maybe not beloved because of the drive-by stuff, but, what's more important to the Greeks than everlasting glory?
Yeah. This book is just a masterclass of men want fame and will do anything to have it. And it's watching it, knowing that it can't be stopped, and knowing that this is all you can do is just watch it, is so hard. It is such a difficult thing.
I described the experience to a friend. Something like, now I, again, am someone with passing knowledge of the Iliad. I would describe the experience of the Song of Achilles as standing on a big red X. And you don't know what the X is for. And then you see a piano-shaped shadow overhead, slowly growing larger. And when Achilles says, "Why do I need to kill Hector? He hasn't done anything to me," you look up and you see the piano, but by that point it is far too late for you to move.
It's like an inch above your head, and you have no other choice.
Yeah. It's like,
Especially,
that's very much.
Because, like, let's be real. I feel like most people know that, like, things do not end well for Achilles. Even if you don't know the ins and outs or whatever.
Well, I mean,
like,
people who do know him know that he got shot in the back of the leg and then immediately died.
Yeah. So, to some degree, like, you, going into this book, even with, like, the bare minimum knowledge, you know that this book is not going to end well. And it is so easy at the beginning to, like, not think about it. Because the book starts just with Patroclus, and he's like, "Yeah, I sucked and everyone hated me."
It actually starts with him murdering someone, but go off.
Well, he talks about, like, how basically his mother was quote-unquote simple, which clearly means that she was, like, developmentally disabled. And that he was, like, a sickly, weak child, and his father hated him, and everyone hated him, and basically someone had come.
Really can't catch a break.
That part. Before the murder, his father takes him, and basically he was there when Helen picked a husband, and when like the blood oath was sworn that if anything ever happened, that all the men in this room would come to her husband's defense if anyone ever tried to steal her or whatever. And Patroclus is made, which first of all, this is
makes a 9-year-old swear a blood oath.
Literally.
First of all, this is Odysseus's idea, who was not interested in marrying Helen.
God, he's fantastic.
I don't know if he was married to Penelope at this point, but I don't think.
I think he was betrothed to her. They hadn't been married yet, but I think he was about to be.
Yeah, he just says that he I have no vested interest in the matter. I speak only as an observer. So this whole fucking thing...
That dude, he's so cool. It just makes it worse for everyone else.
He's like, why don't we let Helen pick? And they're like, well, how do we know that people will honor that? And he goes,
feminists?
We all have to swear a blood oath. I will also swear the blood oath. So if anyone ever tries to steal her, we have to come to her husband's defense. And everyone's like, okay, Slay, I guess. And they all like make this blood pact, and then they leave. She picks Menelaus, right? Is that who she ends up picking?
Menelaus.
Isn't it Menelaus?
Whatever.
Yes, she picks Menelaus.
And then that's it. And then fucking Patroclus kills a man.
Mm-hmm.
Basically,
kills a boy.
A fellow child.
It is not hard to kill children, also I'm told, officer.
No.
Basically it was some noble, the son of a nobleman.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, the kid was being a dick, okay?
Yeah,
the kid being an asshole.
Him.
To be fair, Patroclus also didn't mean to.
Yeah, like he's a dweeb. Like he pushes this kid and he just like instantly dies. He might as well have just snapped his neck on the way down. You know what I mean? Like
Patroclus, he did not mean to whatsoever, but my god, it would be his luck.
He did not mean to. He accidentally kills this kid, immediately fesses up to it, which later he's like, that was stupid.
Why didn't I lie?
Achilles is like, why didn't you lie? Patroclus is like, oh.
I could have done that?
I could, yeah, that's a good point. Considering how much he lies up until and after that point.
Yeah. So he gets sent to, I don't know how to say it, Peleus?
Peleus sounds right. We'll go with that.
Some king who takes pity on exiles, and also Achilles' father. So he shows up there, he's vibing, not really doing much, and at one point he's going to get
sort of pathetic.
Of course. And at one point he is going to get in trouble for not going to fucking lessons or whatever. Basically Peleus is part of why he takes in so many exiles is so that when they grow up they can be in his army. And so he hasn't been showing up, and Achilles finds him and he's like, yo, you're gonna get in trouble.
You're gonna get your ass beat, dude.
And he's like, well, can't you just... Patroclus is like, can you just tell them that I was with you? And Achilles goes, but that would be lying.
I'm jumping in here because this is a masterful choice on Madeline Miller's part. He's not like, can you lie to your dad for me? Patroclus says, you will tell your father that we were together, which is fantastic. And it's also why Achilles likes him so much, because no one else tells him what to do. Everyone is like, oh wow, you're so cool, dude, do the thing with the figs again. Wow, can I, come to you for sword training today? But Patroclus is like, lie to your dad. And he's just like, dude, yeah, alright, you're cool as hell.
Sure, man. We can make it not a lie, but I respect you. I got to the page, it just says, so speak to your father and say I was with you. He will excuse it. Just...
Yeah, see?
And Patroclus says, I said this more confidently than I felt. And he's so real for that. Fake it till you make it, king.
I love Patroclus. Like, in the Iliad, he's everyone's poor little meow meow. He's got like 6 lines and everyone loves him, but in this, he is so real. All the time, so every decision he makes, I'm like, you know what? You fucking go, you funky little Greek.
I love him. I love viewing this story through Patroclus' eyes. It's so good. Also, before we continue, my god, the way he describes like men and boys at 8 years old, the fucking closet was glass. The closet was glass. He describes them with such awe and beauty and just the most enamored language, and you're just like,
and when he sees the girls, like the maids and stuff, he's like, and also women were there. Anyway, Achilles.
Achilles with his gorgeous golden blonde hair, when he smiled, it was like the sun. And I was like, you want to kiss him so bad, it makes you look stupid, Patroclus.
And this might just be something that I've picked up on. I find that when Patroclus is observing people, with men, he'll be looking at them and, like, you know, ogling them. With women, he's paying attention to what they're saying. Like, if they're gossiping or whispering or whatever. So he's paying attention to the women. He's just looking at the dudes.
Yeah, he's just like, oh,
that's
pretty.
so real. Yeah.
I love Patroclus so much.
Which I think you could argue, you know, this is my curtains were blue moment. I think you could argue that that's what makes him so friendly isn't the right word, but like to Breesis later, how he's like genuinely empathetic and friends with the women at Troy. It's because he, you know, he values them as people, which is not a common thing.
Yeah.
No. And we love him so much for it.
The fucking scene. Okay, I'm gonna get ahead of myself here, but the fucking scene where they first bring her to their part of the camp, and she's
oh
like,
my god,
she's
like, oh my god,
so...
they're gonna kill, eat me.
Right, she's so deathly afraid, and like, Achilles tries to come towards her with a knife, to like cut her binding, and she's like, what the fuck?
Hero of Greece with a knife. She's like, ah.
Yeah. But Patroclus is like, just like, let me deal with it. And he tries to like do it, and she's still upset. And the only thing he can think of to do to like calm her down is to grab Achilles by the front of his clothing and kiss him and go, it's okay.
Like, it's okay, girl.
Works.
And it works.
It works. God, it's like that bit in Good Omens where they hit Anathema with the car, and then she's like, "Oh my god, I'm about to be murdered, aren't I?" And then Crowley's like, "Get in, Angel." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, sweet. I guess I'm fine."
Oh god, my tab at that scene quite literally says, "Quote: I'm gay, honey. It's fine." I love that scene so much.
So okay, going back to what we were talking about,
yeah.
Basically, Achilles is like, I want Patroclus for my companion, and it's like they use a specific Greek word. I don't remember what the fuck he says. It's like a specific.
It's just like guy who hangs out with you all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but it is not his fault. I forgot to say I wished him for a companion. Thereupon was the word he used, a brother in arms, sworn to a prince by blood oaths and love. In war, these men were his honor guard, in peace his closest advisors. It was a place of highest esteem, another reason the boys swarmed Peleus' son, showing off they hoped to be chosen. So basically, like, this is a guy you're just gonna hang out with for, like, ever.
Yeah, this is bestie. This is my bestie, and you won't take him from me. But then it turns into more than just bestie. It's very much.
Yeah.
They were not just friends.
As they get older, let's see, when they turn 13, basically the boys that also live there are starting to like sleep with girls and like whatever. Like at 13, damn, but okay. It's fucking, they're Greek, I guess, and it's forever ago. But Patroclus is like, I don't get it. It's like he talks about like the way
they're just women. What are you guys doing?
he like talks about the way that like other people talk about them, and he's like, I just don't understand. And that him and Achilles could have slept with anyone they wanted to, but he didn't want to, or he was too afraid to talk to women. And every time,
Which by this point, everyone wants Achilles.
yes,
Even though he's 13.
yeah, and
they agreed that it
even-
was forever ago.
yeah, even the king. Once I even heard the king offer her to his son, he answered almost diffidently, "I am tired tonight." So,
Dude, that's so real.
no
time for hoes.
So
No time for
they have all this conversation. Peleus is like, "There's a light-haired girl in the kitchen. She's been haunting doorways for you." Achilles is like, I think this part was weird.
Okay, and
"That girl, do you like her?" Achilles turned to face me from across the room. "Why do you?" No, that is not what I meant. I mean, do you want... He ran at me, pushed me backwards onto my cot, leaned over me. "I'm sick of talking about her," he said. The heat rose up my neck, wrapped fingers over my face. His hair fell around me, and I could smell nothing but him. Blah, blah, blah. Then, just like that morning, he was gone, up across the room and pouring a last cup of water. His face was still and calm. "Good night," he said.
I'd say this straight, yeah.
And at that point, we get, like, confirmation that Patroclus has a thing for him, and that, like, maybe he's gay. Basically, he talks about having, like, dreams about being touched, and he doesn't specify who, but we all know who.
I wonder.
And then they end up... Is this where they end up kissing? They end up kissing.
No, that's later on the beach.
Yeah,
they kiss on the beach.
They kiss on the beach, and Achilles, like...
Well, sort of.
Well, close enough. Achilles gets up and
Sort
he
of.
fucking runs. He's like, "I can't handle this. Goodbye."
Is
Well, he
so
doesn't say
real.
anything, does he? He just sort of sprints away.
Yeah,
No,
he just gets up and
goes.
leaves.
Bitch.
And then afterwards, I don't have the book well, I do have the book in front of me, but it's on the shelf. I don't want to get it. Patroclus is like, "Please, gods, do not let him hate me." It's like, oh.
Yeah. And as a girl who ran away from her first kiss after it happened, Achilles was real for that. He was real.
He's so real.
I understand where he's coming from.
Like, same, dude.
I get it.
But this is after he finds out he has to leave
So
the Pelion, isn't it?
No, the kiss happens right before. But when Achilles gets up and leaves, Patroclus follows him, and this is the first time that Patroclus and Thetis interact. Because Thetis shows
has
up.
Such a beef with this 12-year-old.
Thetis shows up, and she's like, "I saw y'all fucking kissing. You suck."
Gay ass.
Basically,
This would be with teenagers on Twitter.
At that point, she's like, "I'm sending him away," and Patroclus is like, "What the fuck am I supposed to do?"
She's just like, I don't know, die. Who cares?
So he does leave, but he, like, I guess he went by himself. Because after, like, a little while,
he met.
Do you think he met with? Is it Chiron?
I think he met
How do you
Chiron
guys
in the
say it?
woods.
Yeah.
Chiron.
Yeah, because Chiron is a boatman. Chiron. I assumed he met him, like, in the woods or, like, at the door, because they're together when Patroclus is like, "Well, this won't do." He just fucks up into the woods despite not being able to fight, having no survival training, generally being sort of pathetic.
No,
but, you know, works out because he runs into Achilles almost immediately.
Yeah. I mean, Achilles was waiting for him.
Yeah.
But he really just, he takes nothing with him. He's like, "I just cannot be here without Achilles for 1
I'm
moment.
gonna find this boy or I'm gonna die.
And then he fucking books it into the fucking woods, into the mountains.
It's so good.
Achilles was waiting for him and like fucking jumps on him.
I quite like how Patroclus is like, oh wait, no, it's fine.
And then Chiron shows up and he's like, I was only supposed to be taking care of one of you, but now I guess you're both here, and I guess that's fine.
Oh
I love
no,
Chiron.
anyway.
I fucking... Can
So
we talk
cool.
about how good Chiron is? That is dad.
So nice.
That is father. He is not just
Dude.
the stepdad, he is the dad who stepped up. I love
Damn
Chiron
right.
so much. Ugh, he's so good.
Is it him
He's
who says you can use a spear as a walking stick, but that does not change its purpose? Because I
Yep.
think about that maybe twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I love Chiron.
Goddamn.
I love him so bad.
He's so cool.
He's got some good words of wisdom. He teaches them like how to hunt, and he teaches Patroclus about healing.
Which comes in handy later. Comes in real handy later.
Basically, they also find out. Well, okay, so they're up on the mountain for a while, I think, before they find this out.
For like 2 years, 4.
Well,
for a couple years.
Okay, so they were.
I think it's 4 years because they're there from 12 to 16.
Yes,
yeah.
They were there
off the top of my head.
They were there for at least a year before, maybe 2 years. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I just read this line and I don't know why I tabbed it.
Well,
Okay.
I had a comment before we go to the end of Mount Pelion things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just completely... Oh, no, got it. No, we're good. So Patroclus expresses an interest in learning medicine, and one way that the Song of Achilles deviates from the Iliad is that Patroclus is useless at fighting. He just can't do it. He's too weak or too uncoordinated or whatever. And there's a section where the two of them are like, yeah, we should probably learn how to fight. And Chiron's like, yeah, all right, Achilles, go. And Achilles does this, gorgeous sword drill. And Chiron's like, yeah, okay, well, I can't teach you anything. Patroclus, do you want to learn how to fight? And he's like, nah. And he's like, cool, I guess we're done here. And that's the end of that.
It was great.
Like,
Apart
he's
from
real, he
being
knows his limits.
funny. Yeah, he doesn't want to teach these boys, the children. He doesn't want to teach these children how to be killers. He wants to teach them music and art and survival and everything, and they still have to go to war and die. Spoilers for the Iliad. It's just there's sort of like a background tragedy about with Chiron about being the trainer who has to send children off to war.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Because the prophecy.
Yeah.
And I love them so much.
There's a part, so this is the part I was thinking of. But anyway, there's a part where basically Patroclus is like, hey, remember that thing I mentioned when I was 13? It's still happening. Where basically he's saying
the gay.
He's like, a marriage would be arranged for Achilles and I might take a wife if I wish to. And then he's talking about like other boys talking about women and having sex with women, and he says, but when I tried to imagine what they spoke of, my mind slid away like a fish who would not be caught.
And that dude,
and he says that he used to just go off by himself in the mornings, and he does not specify what he was doing, but it's clear he was jerking it, and he would just go out in the woods
joking his it. Let's just say.
And then he would come back and Achilles would be like, where the fuck were you? And he'd go, out.
Nowhere.
It's fantastic.
It says, it was difficult sometimes after to return to the cave. Where were you? He'd ask. Just, I'd say, and point vaguely.
I love him. I love him.
So it's like,
oh, the scene prior to that is also very sweet. It's like where you read.
Well, okay, so it's like it is shortly gone.
There's like a scene because they're 13 now. They're obviously changing. They look different. That's what growing will do. and they are talking about how different they look, and like, you know, all of that. And it starts with Patroclus telling Achilles he looks older, and then Achilles is like, yes, you look older too. And Patroclus asks how, and then Achilles just starts touching him, like touching his jawline, his neck, his collarbone, and Patroclus is just like, all right, that's enough. That's enough. he's like going to explode, and I love him so much. And then it starts talking about like how he starts leaving in the mornings to go have me time by himself. And I love Patroclus so much.
He's so great.
He's so good. He's so sweet. And it's so sweet the way he talks about Achilles. It's Achilles' birthday. Oh
yes, and it is also like right after this, where Achilles goes to talk to Thetis, which she comes to see him occasionally, and he comes back, and like Patroclus is fucking doing whatever, and he's like, "You haven't asked me about her visit yet," and Patroclus is like, "Okay, how is she?
How was it?" He's like, "Fine."
He's like, "Fine," and then they just kind of like, they're doing whatever. They're making olive oil, and Achilles goes, "She says she cannot see us here. I had not been expecting him to say more. She cannot see us here on Pelion. What do you mean?" She says, "I asked her if she watches us here." His voice was high. She says she does not. Oh. I wish to tell you because I thought you would wish to know she was not pleased that I asked her. She was not pleased. And then he goes, "Are you pleased with her answer?" Anyway, that's when they do it for the first time.
That's when they get it, and I was like, this is the sweetest, softest scene I think I've ever read.
It's written so nicely.
It's the best written intimacy scene I think I've ever read. It is written
after coming in from the blizzard that is currently like spicy book talk.
Yeah.
It's like a hug.
Yes.
It's so nice. It's so pleasant.
It's like a warm drink.
It is.
It's the softest I've ever seen. It just shows the love these two have for each other so beautifully. They are precious to me. And after they're done, they're talking about like, you know, like they're bathing in the river or something because, you know, you need to shower. And Patroclus is like, "I'm glad that I don't have to avert my gaze anymore." So he can just look at his boyfriend and be like, and not be nervous about it. Like, you are the sweetest boy on the planet. I love the way they talk about each other. I love the way Patroclus talks about Achilles and like the beauty of him. The ethereal beauty of Achilles to Patroclus is so gorgeous.
I love how it blends the line between, because Achilles is a demigod, so obviously he's very pretty. I like how it blends the line between literal, objective attractiveness and what Patroclus thinks of him. Because the line is blurred so often.
They're so sweet. Oh, they're cute.
Anyway, it's time to get awful.
Well, before we go, I would like to talk about Achilles' birthday and how sweet it was.
With the figs.
For his 16th birthday, Patroclus wakes up early and goes and finds a secret fig tree that Chiron told him about, that Achilles doesn't know about. And he goes and he finds these gorgeous, perfectly ripe figs. And he carved a little statue of Achilles playing the lyre out of wood and gifted it to him with the figs for breakfast. And when he gives it to him, he says, "It's you," I said, grinning foolishly. And Achilles said, "I know." They are so silly and sweet. Chiron also got him presents, a staff for hiking, a new belt knife, and it's so sweet. Such a cute
we
scene.
Talk about the liar.
The liar.
Because it's
important. I love the constant bringing up of the liar and it being attached to their childhoods like that in an innocence. Ugh.
Yeah, so what the liar is it belonged to Patroclus's mother.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very tied to her, and then he brings it to Achilles' palace, off the top of my head.
His father
but he can't play it, he's useless at playing it. And then when he shows up, he tags along to Achilles' music lessons for the first time. The lyre sort of passes into Achilles' possession by, if I recall correctly, by virtue of, you live here, you gotta pay for it somehow, give us treasure as thank you. And Patroclus is like, okay. But the lyre belongs to Achilles now, and he plays it, and it's the most beautiful music that Patroclus has ever heard. And he takes the lyre with him to Pelion. And there's a joke about how Patroclus is like, well, you took the lyre. I didn't really have anything to bring with me. And Achilles is like, well, now I know how to make you follow me anywhere. It's like,
crying, sobbing, throwing up.
Yeah, but the lyre, and it comes up later, and holy shit does it come up later. It's a representation of not just Patroclus, obviously, because it's his, but of sort of humanity and empathy and appreciation for things that are not war. So you'll notice as the story goes on, and we're sort of jumping all over the place here a bit, but that's fine. Achilles, he starts out playing the lyre in music lessons, and Patroclus insists that he plays again and again and again, and then he takes that piece of humanity to Pelion. But then once they're at war, he's too busy doing war things and, being a stuck-up bitch. Spoilers. And he stops playing the lyre. Like, he loses the sensitivity that he had in his childhood.
I believe they leave the lyre on Pelion with Chiron. And it's
I could have sworn it was in the treasure hold that someone got.
Well,
unless I'm wrong.
No,
they might have left it behind, which woohoo, imagery, but
they left pretty much everything behind because, okay, first of all, towards the end of their time on the mountain, the first bit of like really awful foreshadowing comes up. With name one hero who is happy. This is the first time of like, I remember how the story
read
ends
the scene.
now.
We need the whole scene.
Okay, his eyes opened. Name one hero who is happy. I considered. Heracles went mad and killed his family. Theseus lost his bride and father. Jason's children and new wife were murdered by his old. Bellerophon killed the Chimera but was crippled by the fall from Pegasus's back. You can't. He was sitting up, now leaning forward. I can't. I know. They never let you be famous and happy. He lifted an eyebrow. I'll tell you a secret. Tell me. I loved it when he was like this. I'm going to be the first. He took my palm and held it to his. Swear it. Why me? Because you're the reason. Swear it. I swear it, I said, lost in the high color of his cheeks, the flame in his eyes. I swear it, he echoed. We sat like that a moment, hands touching. He grinned. So, like...
You can't see me. I'm face down on the floor right now.
It's so fucked up. That part is so fucked up. Again, it's like...
So that's when you start to see the piano shadow.
Yes. Because
for everyone keeping track at home.
Up until this point, you're like, oh, this is just like a coming of age story. And then you remember where you are.
And then you remember where you are and what's going to happen in about 2 years. And you're like, oh.
Oh
no. But they leave everything because basically his father's, like, herald or whatever shows up and is like, hey, your dad wants you, like, right now. And Achilles is like, okay, we'll be back in, like, a day. And let me see if I can find it.
I cried. I have it. The scene where they leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, my father has summoned me home just for tonight. I expect I will be back soon. I see, Chiron said.
Because he knows what's up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's aware. And Chiron says, Achilles, do you remember when I asked you what you would do when men wanted you to fight?
Oh my god.
Yes, said Achilles. You should consider your answer, Chiron said. And then he turns to Patroclus and he says, Patroclus, I walked forward and he placed his large hand on my head, large and warm as the sun. I breathed in the scent that was his alone, horse sweat and herbs and forest. His voice was quiet. You do not give things up so easily now as you once did. Be well. And and Achilles says, we'll be back soon. And Chiron says, I will look for you. And that was my first crying experience in this book of they left Chiron and I was so sad. It's like, I know where they're going and I can't get off this train. And they've left Dad. And I was so sad. And then they go to Thia, where Achilles' dad is at, and basically his dad's like, so, hey. They took Troy took Helen, and we gotta go get her. And Achilles is like, well, what the fuck?
Which I think is a valid response.
Being gone for like 4 years and you come back and it's like, so there's been a war declared because somebody took a girl. Yeah, and now you have to lead the army. Sorry, bud. I hate to tell you, you gotta lead the army. And
because
one of my favorite
if you'll
scenes,
remember that blood oath that the 9-year-old swore.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes is when they get there. Before King Peleus tells them the news, they go to have a feast and in the great dining hall, and there is only seats for the king, his like advisors, and Achilles. And Patroclus notices there's no seat for him next to Achilles. And Achilles is like, Dad, there's no seat for my boyfriend. Fix it. And a seat gets placed for Patroclus.
I will add that part of like part of what adds more to that scene is the fact that Thetis is there. She's fucking annoyed the whole time. She's so annoyed by his presence.
Beefing with a 16-year-old, and for what? For what? I love it so much. It's so funny. And then they learn about the war.
And then Thetis kidnaps Achilles.
And it's like, you're actually not going to war. By the way, you're gonna go dress up in drag for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, the tactical drag has got to be my favorite part.
Tactical drag.
Okay, well, backtrack just a little bit. So, Achilles is just like missing. Patroclus is like, it's fine. He's probably like down the hall or whatever. But he's not down the hall. He is nowhere. So Patroclus goes to the king and is like, hey, tell me where your goddamn son is. The king's like, I don't know where he went. Patroclus is like, tell me the name of God, you fungal piece of shit. He's like, he's on Skyros?
Skyros, yeah.
Skyros, yeah. Yeah, his mum took him there. Patroclus is like, thank you, Christ. So he puts on Achilles' nicest clothes to look all scary when he's talking to the king, and he sails to Skyros. And he shows up and he meets this princess who is like, hey,
oh my god,
sorry, my dad's not here. Maybe I could help you, but you're gonna have to come see me and the girls. We have a whole routine. It's a whole thing. And Patroclus is like,
we have a dance crew.
Fine. We have a dance crew. But he gives his name as Chironides, son of Chiron. Holy shit.
Ow.
Broke my heart. Hurt me.
But yeah, she's like, well, stranger from Pelion. Now you'll know. You'll have seen the dance crew. And all of these lovely women come out. One of them is 6'2" and built like an Olympic sprinter. And everyone's like, that's just Pyrrha, don't mind her. And then Patroclus is just sort of minding his business. He looks at Pyrrha and, oh my goodness, it's Achilles dressed as a woman. Why? Who's to say?
Oh,
But
tactical
Achilles
drag.
sort of sprints over. Tactical drag. It's the best. Achilles sprints over, and then the princess and the king are like, hey, what? What are you... Because they... Okay, look. I think 15-year-old boy, maybe. It was ancient Greece. I think you could get away with maybe looking like a girl. He's 16 and also a demigod. His son looks like a man at 12.
Yeah.
He's gotta be jacked by this point. Like, you know what? Maybe they're just being body positive.
My favorite point, my favorite scene about it is when Patroclus realizes that it's Achilles. The king, like comedies, is genuinely so confused, so he thought Achilles was a girl. The only one who knew was Didamia.
Achilles throws himself at Patroclus, and everyone is like, "Hey, what is the meaning of this?" And the princess is like, "No, sorry, the king is like, who the hell is this?" And Achilles is like, "This is my husband. I was waiting for him to come back for me." And everyone's like, "Ooh." I really like. I gave up. I've got the book out now. Patroclus thinks I closed my mouth quickly so I did not gape like a fish, which is really funny. Like, what the fuck?
Meanwhile,
and then Didamia just starts throwing a temper tantrum.
Flipping the fuck out, and she's like, "It's not true. It's not true." Whatever. Basically, we find out that Thetis not only brought him here, but then made him do some shit, which, like...
Thetis sucks!
Thetis made him sleep with her in return for her telling Patroclus where he is, which of course she fucking didn't. Love him to death. Why the fuck would she? Why the fuck would he think that she would?
Genuinely, before we keep going, fucking Achilles is like, yeah, is like, yeah, my mom said she would like tell you where I was if I did it, and Patroclus is like, you did it for nothing. What do you mean? Your mother did not tell me where you were. It was Peleus, your dad. She did not tell you? No! Did you truly expect she would? Yes, he whispered. The naivety of this sweet boy. God, I love him, but sometimes I'm like, this woman quite literally has said to Patroclus multiple times, you will never be good enough for him, and you will die soon anyway. Fully has predicted his death and has wished it upon him multiple times. You think that lady's gonna tell him where you're at all? Sweet boy.
And you know what?
Sweet boy.
Patroclus forgives him immediately.
Yeah. Patroclus is like,
doesn't even tell him up.
Okay,
he's
honey.
Like, you know what? You genuinely did not know better.
You didn't know better, and it's okay.
There is nothing to forgive. Holy shit.
And come to find out, Didamia is pregnant with Achilles' kid.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
That'll come back later. But
pin that.
Put a pin in it. But they end up, basically Thetis is like, you're gonna continue to let him stay here with Patroclus. Again, to basically shelter him from the war. But this paragraph gets me. So Achilles hears about the baby, and whatever. They hear about it. Patroclus is pissed and he leaves, and Achilles comes running after him. And again, he like immediately forgives him, but he says, "Something shifted in me then, like the frozen surface of the Apidanos in spring. I had seen the way he looked at her, or rather the way he did not. It was the same way he had looked at the boys in Pythia, blank and unseeing. He had never, not once, looked at me that way."
Oh, God. They're so in love. It's disgusting.
And then he says, "Forgive me. I did not want it. It was not you. I did not like it." My throat was sick with the beginning of tears. There is nothing to forgive, I said.
They're so...
They stay here for a while.
Yeah, they're there for a bit, and, you know, Achilles is still practicing Greg. Good for him, you know. Get it together, King. And then, one day, ship shows up, and they're like, hey, what is that ship over there? Huh, that looks a little funky. And come to find out, it is Odysseus.
And
Once again, here he is.
Oh my god, my boy,
Just the guy.
the king, the real hero.
It's Odysseus and Diomedes?
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, he runs into Odysseus. Go on.
I was gonna say, can I tell this bit just because I think it's really funny? Okay. Odysseus and Diomedes show up, and they're like, "Hey-yo, sorry, you know, we burst in like this. It's very rude of us. So we brought some gifts. What's your name?" And Patroclus is like, Chironides. That's me. And Odysseus is like, well, Chironides, like, he takes it, and Patroclus is like, sweet, I'm in the clear. So they go to dinner. Oh no, because Patroclus lies about where he's from. He's like, yeah, I'm from the checks note on hand south. And Odysseus is like, you have a northern accent. And Patroclus is like, shit. So
that's crazy,
just funny. But Odysseus is like, and Diomedes like, here, we brought gifts for the women of Skyros. Come and look at all the stuff. And they're like, hey, you know, Chironides, you should come and join in this war that we've got going on. It's kind of important. And some guy's wife got stolen. And Patroclus is like, yeah, I'm good, actually. And they're like, well, shucks, we tried. So the women come out, and Achilles is also there. The princess is not there because she's busy being pregnant, but no one wants...
Yeah, they sent her away.
They don't want anyone to know, so they're like, yeah, she's visiting family.
She's visiting it out.
Yeah, but the women come out and they come and look at all the stuff. There's like gems, and there's hair pieces and earrings and mirrors and bracelets and all sorts of cool stuff. Achilles is doing a bit, like he's like trying on the perfume and looking at the mirrors, and like he pretends to put on a pair of earrings, and it's all very funny. And then the war trumpet sounds, like the war signal. And Achilles sort of Assassin's Creed vaults over the table, picks up a sword, and tears off his, like, he's not wearing a wig, but he essentially tears off his drag wig. And Odysseus is like, Achilles, dude, what's up? We gotta go to war. Nice to see you. Bring Patroclus. And both of them are like, shit.
Like, Achilles could not help himself. He immediately jumped up on the table with a sword. He couldn't help it.
God. That's what I said. Odysseus pulled the fire alarm. But in the Iliad, they recognize Achilles because Achilles is the only one to show interest in the weapons that they brought. And then he fucking vaults over this table, and then Odysseus is like, "Here, put a shirt on. God damn."
Come on.
Yeah, it's like, all right, toodles. We have to go to war now.
My favorite
Achilles and Patroclus is like, "What the fuck, dude?" Odysseus is like, "Yeah, well, it worked, didn't it?"
Yeah. My favorite interaction between Odysseus and Patroclus before all that is when he's like, hey, so what's your name? Oh, really? Interesting. That's really funny. And at the end of it, he just goes, useless information is my curse, I'm afraid. He was amused again, that slight smile. Now, don't forget to come find me if you decide you want to join us, or if you happen to know of any other young men who I should speak to. And there comes a point where he says, I would have sworn you were from the north. And he also says the thing of, you know, you look really familiar to me. But I can't place you.
My favorite part of the whole thing is later when they're like sitting down to have dinner, and the king is like, oh, by the way, this is Odysseus. And Odysseus goes, yeah, I realized I forgot to tell you my name earlier. And internally, Patroclus has this moment of panic where he's like, fuck, I forgot to ask his name.
But the thing is, here's the thing though, he did ask his name. He did. Because he's like, who are you? He asks, who are you? He asks his name. Odysseus doesn't tell him. And so Patroclus just got gaslit.
He's so good. Actually, there's a bit later, a little bit later, where they're talking about the war. And Odysseus is like, here, you know, we're gonna do all of these things. It's gonna take ages, and it's gonna be awesome. And Patroclus says, I thought you said it would be an easy campaign home by autumn. And Odysseus just says, I lied.
No. Oh, and then we come upon my favorite scene. Well, or at least one of them. Well, first, we get into, there's a touch of, like, they're like, you were clever in hiding yourself. We had to be clever still in finding you. And they talk about how, like, boys who wear dresses and skirts and stuff get looked at funny. And I'm like, not the transphobia in Pride Month. How dare you? What the fuck?
Oh, yeah, this is a big thing later in ancient Greece. So being gay is fine. Because, well, like, it's not fine, but it's like, okay, yeah, you have a boy that you keep with you, sure. But dressing like a woman will get you stoned to death.
Insanity.
So that is Odysseus's big sort of blackmail token. He's like, well, if you don't come with us, we'll tell everyone you were in heels. And Achilles is like,
we'll tell everyone you were in a pretty dress.
Please. Mercy.
And then my favorite scene, my favorite Achilles line in this entire book. Diomedes and Odysseus are like, you know, being like, you have to come to the war, like, you have to. And Achilles says, I see nothing but a cuckolded husband and Agamemnon's green. And I'm like, he called Menelaus a cuck. He called Menelaus a cuck.
Is he wrong?
Is he wrong? No. But God,
is he wrong?
It took me out so bad. Achilles is so funny for no reason. I love him.
This is where him being a bitch comes back in from the Iliad. You only really see it when Patroclus is watching Achilles interact with other people, because he's always nice to Patroclus. But whenever anyone else is involved, especially the bit with the speech about the priest of Apollo, which is later. Oh my God. It's my favorite section, but we'll get there. We'll get to that. Patience is a virtue.
So, you know, Thetis comes and like she shows up, and one of my tabs quite literally says, "Thetis, please save him, my God." It's not happening. And Odysseus is just like, "Greetings, Thetis." He's just some guy. He's great. I believe they're talking about Athena, the goddess of like war, and Odysseus is like, the gray-eyed maiden has ever been kind to me. She knows why I'm here. She blesses my guards and purpose. And Thetis just says, Athena has no child to lose in this war. I do. So Thetis may be a hater, and she may be beefing with a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old as they grow, but she does care about this boy, and she finds that he is too young to go to war, and yes, he is destined to fame, but not right now. And she is trying so hard to keep that from happening.
I think we have different editions, because mine, Thetis doesn't say that in my copy.
Yeah, it says, Athena has no child to lose, the words grated from Thetis' throat hung there. And I was like, ooh, damn, that's real tea. That's real tea, girl.
See, this interaction is really tragic, and it's horrible, because it's Thetis finally realizing that even though she doesn't like her son, he is guaranteed to die if he goes to war. but it's also maybe it's just, the British remnant in me, but there's something really darkly hilarious about Thetis pulling up, and she's like, "What's up, kiddo? So I've just been upstairs, spoke to management. They said you're gonna be the coolest motherfucker in Greece. Also, you're gonna be dead before 30, but let's not worry about that bit. I need you to sign this merch deal for me." Like, she's such a bad mother, but she's a great manager.
She's a bad mom, but a good manager.
Dude,
oh my God.
Kris Jenner could never.
Oh my God. And there's a scene with Patroclus and Achilles talking, and Achilles is like, I don't think I could bear it. If he doesn't go to war, he will have nothing, and he will just become like an old man with no fame. Most he'll be is an old forgotten king, and no one will know his name.
Boo-hoo, you get to live to 90. Sucks to be you, asshole. What?
Once again, masterclass in men want power and will do anything for it. And Patroclus just says, I would not care. Whatever you became, it would not matter to me. We would be together. And I'm just like, Achilles, listen to your boyfriend. Listen to him.
Ass.
Listen to your boyfriend, Achilles. And he won't. He shan't. And then he says, I'm going. And Patroclus is like, well, shit, if you're going, I'm going. They have the classic, wherever you go, I follow, promise made to each other.
We also...
And can we talk about, he would sail to Troy and I would follow even into death?
Man.
Yep. Man.
We also kind of glazed over the other... There's just this whole section is full of like, oh God, it's coming. But this, around here, because after, whatever, Patroclus goes to find Thetis, and she's like, what the fuck do you want? And he's like, I need you to tell me when he's going to die. And she's like, well, I don't know. And he's like begging, and this is where we get the Hector's death will be first part of the prophecy. And Patroclus comes back and tells Achilles that he knows, and this is where we get the next fucking terrible piece of foreshadowing. A sly smile spread across his face. He had always loved defiance. Well, why should I kill him? He's done nothing to me. For the first time then, I felt a kind of hope.
Sick.
Now this is when you see the piano.
Madeline Miller, the criminal that you are. What the fuck? Oh my God.
Now, even me, who had no knowledge of the Iliad, I read this line and I was like, oh, okay. This is how this is gonna go. Alright.
This is
fantastic.
Great.
So so all this happens, and Achilles is like, well, I guess I have to go. So they go, and they
also the baby.
What?
Before they fuck off to war, the child.
Yes, the baby. The baby.
Yeah, the child that the princess has.
Achilles.
It's a boy, and Thetis is like, it's gonna be a boy, and yoink.
I'm gonna raise him myself, bitch.
Yeah. And he's gonna be cooler than you.
When they fuck off to war, we get another incredible Odysseus scene where he's talking about his wife.
God, he's so
This guy's
cool.
just always talking about his wife.
So much. She's like painted on the ship or something, or like she's at the bow of the ship.
He slaps the boat. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he slaps the boat, and
this bad boy can fit so many Greeks.
Yeah, it's like, man, this puppy can do so much. And Achilles and Patroclus are like, looking at the pretty painted lady. And Odysseus is like, you're admiring my wife, I see. She refused at first, wouldn't let the artist near her. I had to have him follow her in secret. I think it turned out rather well, actually.
Dude,
and then
this
he
man.
just gets to brag about her for a minute. And I love it. And then fucking Diomedes comes up, and he's like, "Are you bragging about the boat again?"
Odysseus is like, yeah, and Diomedes spits into the sea.
Yep. Oh, and then we get Odysseus calling Diomedes' wife a hellhound bitch. And I'm like, do you know how intense of a woman you have to be be described as that? I love that, actually. It's hilarious, and it's my favorite thing.
So, okay, so after all that happens, they go home. They go home, and then they go to meet up with the rest of the kings. And when they go to meet up with the rest of the kings, when Achilles gets off the boat, Thetis does some fucking magic shit to make him look cooler than he is. And
she sends like god rays.
Yes.
To make him all shiny. Everyone's like, woo.
Basically, he tells Agamemnon, like, you ain't shit. He doesn't, he's supposed to kneel for him, and he doesn't. And,
oh, wait.
He's basically
sorry,
like...
can we jump back?
Yeah.
Just for a split second. When they're pulling up, as it were, there's some sort of murmurs about how it's like, ooh, why's Achilles got this guy with him? Is he gay or something? And Patroclus is like, yeah, mate, I could just sleep outside, or like someone else. I don't have to come with you to everything. And Achilles is like, no, they don't care. Well, you know what? I'm telling them. I'm telling you that they will not care. I'm gonna be the coolest guy in Greece. Patroclus is like, well, I could make I could darken your honor. Achilles is like, and?
What about it?
Odysseus knows what's up. And Achilles, holy shit, his eyes, green as spring leaves, met mine. Patroclus, I have given enough to them. I will not give them this. After that, there was nothing more to say.
An incredible line.
Ow.
And then after that, we get the scene where they are like, you know, together, having boyfriend time, and Achilles says, "Your hair never quite lies flat here. I don't think I've ever told you how I like it." And then Achilles just goes over Patroclus and talks about like the things he loves and touches him, and it's very intimate and sweet. And then then Patroclus is laying awake while Achilles sleeps, and he says, "This is what I will miss. I will kill myself rather than miss it. How long do we have?" And I just wept. I was like, oh my god, I don't care for this.
Now, I, sort of a self-described miserable bitch, I think. This was very reminiscent of, have you read Catching Fire, the second Hunger Games book? You know how at the end of every single goddamn chapter, she's like, but you know, I'll die and that'll be fine, but Peter, he'll continue to flourish. It's like that. He's like, yeah, oh man, this is such a nice moment. Too bad he's gonna die and I'm gonna fucking get hit by a train immediately afterwards because I can't live without him.
And then they pull up.
So it's okay. I feel like this is when we really see how bad Agamemnon is, because they meet up wherever his fucking kingdom is. That's where they meet. And from there they're supposed to go to Troy, but there is no wind. And they can't go on the boats without wind.
They can't paddle because the boats are too big.
Right.
Probably.
And so they go back and forth about this like a lot, and they're like, fucking whatever. He has a chief priest, Calchas, who says that he believes it is the goddess Artemis we have offended, though he does not say why. He gives the usual prescription, an enormous sacrifice. At our next camp meeting, he announces that he has invited his daughter to help preside over the rites. She's a priestess of Artemis, and the youngest woman ever to have been so anointed. Perhaps she can soothe the raging goddess. And so she's also being brought to marry somebody, and Agamemnon is like, Achilles, do you want to marry her? And he's like, yeah, I guess, because he doesn't want to offend him. At this point in time, he doesn't want to offend him. So he's like, okay, sure. And they're like, this will be good, blah 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 blah. There is a moment where he says, Achilles is watching for my answer. He will say no if I wish it. Jealousy pricks, but faintly. It will only be a night. It will win him status and sway. It will mean nothing. I nod, slight as Odysseus had. And then he's like, okay, slay. Good. So then she shows up, and she's like, super happy. She's like barely 14.
Yeah.
And she runs to Agamemnon first, and she's like,
hey, Dad.
Like, this is my dad. Hello. And then she turns to Achilles, because like she knows that this is who she's marrying. And he goes to take her hand, and Diomedes grabs her and like shoves her down, and they kill her, as a sacrifice to Artemis to be able to get
Agamemnon
the back.
Kills her.
Yes.
Yeah, Agamemnon kills his own kid. And I'm just like, this was the scene where I first screamed, and I was like, oh my god.
Can we talk about how the first time Achilles sees someone die, he hasn't even started fighting yet?
Yeah.
Because I think about this daily.
Yeah. And he's
First of all,
upset about
it really sets the tone for
Yeah.
his experience of the Trojan War, I think. It's a 13-year-old girl. Completely innocent girl. Not even on the battle. Like, they're about to get married, for Christ's sake. And she dies horribly. He gets splattered with blood. Because, throat violence.
Blood could be spraying.
And he is terrified. Like, this poor boy is like, I could have done something. Yeah. Why didn't I do anything? It's like,
yeah. And then the second, like, Patroclus washes him off and cleans him up and puts him to bed, and Patroclus fucking storms out of that tent, and he's like, I'm gonna go yell at Odysseus, not Agamemnon. Awesome. He knows his limits. But he knows
you can yell at and get away with it.
Yeah, he runs to Odysseus' tent, and he's like, dude, what the fuck? And Odysseus is just like, listen, man, this is war. I don't know what to tell you. I hate that it happened too. I didn't want it to happen, but this is what war does.
We were wrong. It wasn't Chiron who said the walking stick line. It was Odysseus. He leaned forward in his chair. May I give you some advice? If you are truly his friend, you will help him leave this soft heart behind. He's going to Troy to kill men, not rescue them. He is a weapon, a killer. Do not forget it. You can use a spear as a walking stick, but that will not change its nature.
So cool.
Yeah. If you hear nothing else I say, hear that. I do not say it in malice. You are wrong, I said. He did not answer me, only watched me turn and flee from his silence.
So, go Patroclus, man. Fucking go Patroclus. You're a little naive, buddy, but you know what? You got the fucking spirit. Cool. He's got the spirit. And then they're training for more.
They're discussing when Patroclus killed that boy.
Yeah, he asked like, what was it like when you killed that kid?
What's it like to kill? Patroclus is like, well, it wasn't great. And
no,
this is wrong. Yeah. I reached for his hand and took it. I have no need to forgive you. You cannot offend me. Holy shit.
Oh, they're so sad.
Also, at the end of that section, like the same conversation, Patroclus almost gets bit by a fucking snake, and Achilles catches it, and he says, "I did not even see it. I managed." He threw the thing aside to lie blunt-nosed and brown among the weeds. He had broken its neck. You did not have to, he said. I saw it.
He will protect his man so much.
I'm falling apart.
We're falling apart, dying inside.
I'm falling apart.
So they end up in Troy. They make a camp. Why did I have this tabbed? This shit. Okay, listen.
Oh, do they have the bit where... Oh, yeah.
This fucking line. So they're just like vibing. They're looking at the gates of the city. He said, later I would see those walls up close. They're sharp squared stones perfectly cut and fitted against each other. the work of the god Apollo, it was said, and I would wonder at them, at however the city could be taken, for they were too high for siege towers and too strong for catapults, and no sane person would ever try to climb their sheer divinely smooth face.
Disgusting. Madeline Miller. The fucking criminal you are.
I have a note, just a lightning fast note about actually pulling up and landing at Troy, which I think is a fun little thing. There is a prophecy that I don't think is mentioned in this book, that the first Greek to land on Trojan soil will die. Odysseus is the one who gets that prophecy, and that's when, Protesilaus dies first because he's the first one who lands on soil, but Odysseus actually throws down his shield and lands on that. So he's technically the first one to land at Troy, but because he doesn't touch the ground, the other guy gets shot and dies.
He's such a silly man.
What, Odysseus?
So I think, well, hey, he was right.
Yeah. He was right.
I just think that was a nice touch.
Then they start deciding to do raids instead of like storm it. They're like, well, we're gonna go kill all these people in farms and like, you know, take their stuff, and then Troy won't have food and water and like supplies and things of the sort. And then they start doing the prizes, the war prizes. I might be skipping forward a little bit. They make there's a scene where Achilles is going off to do the raids, and he asks Patroclus to help him with his armor, and I'm like, they're so God, I hate this, but they're so good. He gives Patroclus a goodbye kiss, and also the fact that Patroclus calls their bed our bed, and it made me cry. I love them very much. And we start to we start to really see the what the fame is doing to Achilles.
Okay, well we've skipped over a very important character first. So around one of the first raids, that's how they end up with Briseis.
She hasn't come yet.
What part are you talking about then?
They start doing
the first time he goes out.
Yeah, the first time he goes to a raid.
2:10.
Okay.
Yeah. And like as they continue on and blah blah blah, Achilles comes back from his first raid, and we start to see the stirrings of what fame is doing to him. And he is so excited about being a murderer.
It's less excitement and more sort of boy-like wonder, because he's never killed anyone before. He's never been able to, perform at full capacity, because he's had to keep a little secret so no one kills him for being 12. But one thing that I love, and by love I mean this almost set me off the first time I read it, about the scene when Achilles gets back, is that I think we did bring it up, and I don't know how. The one line that's like, I would know him blind. I would know him by the sound of his feet hitting the earth. I would know him even in death at the end of the world. Mm-hmm. Achilles gets back from war, and Patroclus' first thought is, who the hell is this? He smelled sharp and strange, and for a moment I was almost revolted at this creature which clung to me and shoved its face against mine. But then he set back on his heels and was Achilles again, his hair damp and darkened as if all the morning sun had been poured out of it.
That's sick that you bring that up. That's sick that you brought that up. You're sick in the head for that. Actually, ow. Oh my god.
And then Patroclus' first thought is like, oh, someone's hurt him because he is covered in blood. And then he looks and he's like, no, it's not his.
Mm-hmm. And Achilles is like, they could not get close enough to touch me. I did not know how easy it would be. Like nothing. You should have seen it. The men cheered me afterwards. I cannot miss. I wish you had seen. Ugh.
There's also a scene at the end of this chapter where basically Patroclus is like, I would sleep through the day so that when he got back at nighttime, I could listen to him talk about all the people he killed. And he says specifically, I wanted to be able to listen, to digest the bloody images, to paint them flat and unremarkable onto the vase of posterity, to release him from it and make him Achilles again.
sick. That line is sick and twisted for that. Sick and twisted.
Can we pin how Achilles says, "I would not kill an unarmed man"?
Yeah.
Can we pin that? That's important for later.
Anyway, then they get Briseis.
Queen. Love her so much.
She gets along with Patroclus.
Well, Patroclus is like, hey, that girl is a war prize. Get her so nothing bad happens to her. And Achilles is like, alright.
Okay.
And then they just continue to do that with several more women.
Yeah, they're so
good.
It's so they teach them Greek so they can like communicate. And they keep them safe. They make them their own little camp and like their own little tents. Briseis becomes kind of like a teaching aunt. Patroclus always talks about how funny she is, like when she really starts to come out of her shell, and the stories she tells and the way she tells them, and she's just a girl, and I love her. I love Briseis so much.
She's so great.
Anyway, they go to
yeah, and then you sort of get the brick to the teeth that is, it was easy in those moments to forget that the war had not yet really begun.
Yeah.
So thanks for that one.
Because then they actually do the war stuff, and Patroclus is like, oh shit, I have to go do that.
You know, that blood oath when I was 9.
And he's really bad at it, and then he realizes, like, towards the end of that day's fighting, that he's literally been walking in circles, and that Achilles has been keeping everyone away from him.
They're so
crazy.
There's also a scene where Achilles and Patroclus are like sitting down talking, and they're being little guys, and Achilles is like, "Do you think Helen left willingly, and she started this war on purpose?" And Patroclus is like, "I don't know, maybe." And one of them says, "Maybe she really fell in love with Paris. Maybe she was bored. After 10 years shut up in Sparta, I'd want to leave too. Maybe Aphrodite made her. Maybe they'll bring her back with them." Because they go to do like an embassy to talk before they do the war stuff. And I think Agamemnon would attack anyway. I think so too. They never even mention her anymore. The entire reason for the war is not even brought up anymore. Except in speeches to the men. We were silent for a moment, and Achilles says, "So which of the suitors would you have picked?" They laugh. They are just... It's moments like these where you remember they are just like 16-year-old boys. They are children
they're like
still.
17 at the oldest here.
Yeah. There's also a scene, like, whatever. This is the Patroclus is talking about seeing Paris and all this stuff. And Hector. I never tried to get closer to him, and neither did Achilles, who carefully turned from his glimpsed figure to face other Trojans, to wade off to other shoals. Afterwards, when Agamemnon would ask him when he would confront the Prince of Troy, he would smile his most guileless, maddening smile. What has Hector ever done to me? And the piano gets closer.
We need a piano tracker, I think, for this episode.
Patroclus basically finds himself in like the healer's tent or whatever, and he starts helping out there.
This is important, but I'd like to jump back. Sorry, I keep jumping back a few pages, but I'm just reading the most banger quotes that I've blacked out for my own sanity. So before Patroclus wanders off to go do doctor things, he's talking to Achilles about prophecies and, you know, dying before 30 and killing Hector and all that thing. And Achilles says, well, it has to be me to kill Hector because no one else can, because I'm the best and the coolest. Patroclus is like, but you won't, right? You won't do that? Achilles is like, no, but I can see it. That's the strange thing. Like in a dream, I can see myself throwing the spear, see him fall. I walk up to the body and stand over it. Dread rose in my chest. I took a breath, forced it away. And then what? That's the strangest of all. I look down at his blood and know my death is coming. But in the dream, I do not mind. What I feel, most of all, is relief.
Oh! Oh my god, that hurts. That hurts so bad. What the fuck?
Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Ether. Feel free to continue. I'll be in the corner.
Then there's also this scene with Briseis where Achilles asks what she knows of Hector, and basically she talks about his wife and his brothers or something. Anyway, the chapter ends with Achilles basically saying that he left one of the sons alive so that their bloodline could continue. I am glad I said, my heart full. The logs in the fire grew white with ash. It is strange, he said. I have always said that Hector has done nothing to offend me, but he cannot say the same now.
Yeah.
Also, he's just caused a massive problem for Odysseus later. Spoilers for the Odyssey.
There starts to be like a mutiny, and Achilles is like, shut the fuck up.
It's been 4 years now. So they are 20.
They are 20 years old.
At Troy.
Yep.
They get used to being there, and they're basically like making a fucking city there because they've been there for so long. And Patroclus starts to become kind of like a beloved figure in the camp. Because
he's just everyone's poor little meow meow. Everyone loves Patroclus.
He's everyone's baby.
Some of the women that they have saved end up like marrying the men in the camp, and having babies. And Thetis shows up and is like, Apollo is angry and looks for ways to move against the Greeks. You will sacrifice him today. Telling him what to do, yada yada.
The best of the Myrmidons will die before 2 more years have passed.
Sick.
The Myrmidons is like Achilles and his army that he's leading. Group. That's that group.
No, the prophecy says you will still be alive when it happens. She says, I do not know. I fear a trick. Be watchful, she said. You must take care. And then, of course, she has to. He is not worthy of you. He has never been.
Achilles says, we disagree on this.
We were silent a moment. Then he said, I suppose we will know soon enough. It is not you, I said. At least there is that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
You'll notice we grumble more often as the book goes on.
As more and more things are revealed and talked about. Yeah.
There's a scene where Briseis kisses him, Patroclus that is, and he's like, and
this is besties.
Well, he starts to have this,
we don't kiss.
He starts to have this thing of like, maybe if I had never met Achilles, or you know, like this would be the line that I would go down. But like that's not what happened. And when Achilles dies, I will die. Briseis takes it like a champ though, and she's like, okay, cool.
I get it. Like, you love him very much, and I can see it, and I completely understand. The slay girl.
Yeah.
And later, Patroclus asked Achilles, he was like, have you ever thought about having kids? And he's like, I have one. And then we learned what his child is called. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce his full name. So we'll go by what he called, what the nickname he gets, which is Pyrrhus.
Pyrrhus. Like Pyrrha, but Pyrrhus, which I thought was funny.
Neapolitan.
Neoptolemus. Close enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now we know that there's a name for the child.
Yeah.
He exists.
He exists. At this point, they
oh boy.
You know,
it's a good book.
At this point, basically they had kidnapped a priest's daughter and a girl, and Agamemnon claims her as a war prize, and then her
yoink.
father shows up and is like, I'll give you all of this fucking treasure if you give her back. And he's like, no. I guess because the guy didn't kneel. And he called
Agamemnon
it...
is like, no.
And he
You didn't say that I'm cool before you asked.
And he specifically said, taken unlawfully by the Greek army from our temple.
There is, now, might be talking out of my ass here, but there is a sort of, not sure if it's an actual law or just sort of a rule of thumb, but if Greek armies were not allowed to do any combat inside temples. They weren't allowed to hurt anyone inside temples. They weren't allowed to take prisoners from temples. Like, there's a bit from a war way later, and I cannot. My poor history teacher is turning in her grave. But soldiers went to a temple of Athena, and they tied a rope to the statue and held the rope and came out like holding the rope. And they were like, "Aha! Technically, we're still in the temple, so you can't kill us." And then the rope snapped, and it was a whole thing. But yes, so technically, they have broken the divine law by taking a priestess.
Yes.
They're not allowed to do that.
And they don't give her back, so this causes a plague that only affects the soldiers.
Is so funny. It's so funny. Can I cover this speech? It's hilarious.
Go on.
So everyone's dying of plague. all the soldiers are dying of a horrible plague, and everyone is like, this doesn't seem like a natural plague. This seems like shenanigans, and no one really, one thing to mention is that the priestess and the dad of the priestess are of Apollo, who, if you'll recall, if you're following along at home, is the god of plagues, which you may find important in a moment. So Achilles called a meeting, basically, and he's like, hey, Agamemnon, am I allowed to speak to the armies? Is that cool? And Agamemnon's like, fine, whatever. And Achilles is like, hey, so we can't really do a war when there's this plague. And I think we've all figured out that we've pissed off a god. Can anybody think of any plague gods we might have, and any reason why a plague god might be annoyed at us? Agamemnon got any idea? No, I don't know. Any ideas, anyone? And it's really funny because everyone's like looking at each other and like, yeah, no, we probably shouldn't have pissed off that priest. Whoopsies. And then the priest comes back and he's like, yeah, the fates, the auguries say that Apollo is pissed off. Also, it's because you're being mean to his servant. And Agamemnon's like, and the soothsayer's like, well, to unpiss him off, you got to give the girl back. And Agamemnon has to send a thank you note. It's like an apology letter. Agamemnon's like smoke's pouring out of his ears. And Achilles is like, thank you. Agamemnon is pissed the fuck off. He's ready to just lose his mind. Achilles is like, we're besties. Remember? We're meant to like each other. Like, we're meant to be nice. Did you forget about that one? This time? Is that something you forgot about? Which is really funny.
And my favorite part of that interaction, oh my god, when the priest comes and talks about what they have to do, Agamemnon says, "Thank you, Calchas. Thank you for always bringing good news. Last time it was my daughter. Kill her, you said, because you have angered the goddess. Now you seek to humiliate me before my own army." And I'm like, you pissed him off! I don't know what you wanted.
It's so funny. But yeah, Agamemnon is like, well, you're just a spoiled little rich boy. Achilles is like, well, I'm the coolest guy here, so try again. Agamemnon's like, do you guys hear that? He just threatened me. He threatened me in front of my army. Achilles is like, what army without me, bitch? So they're just sort of arguing back and forth. And eventually Achilles is like, so you're really, I think you're sort of externalizing all of this anger, okay? And it's really unhealthy. But my question for the crowd is this: how long would you have let all your mates die before you admitted that you did the wrong thing? You know, how long would how long would that have happened?
Okay.
And then Agamemnon is like, right, you know what? You're gonna give me all your treasure and Briseis, and that's Briseis, and you know that's gonna serve as an apology.
Yeah.
Achilles is like, no, and because Agamemnon, raging with testosterone, will not back down in front of a crowd. He is like, nope. Snaps his fingers. Garçon, bring me the girl.
So this argument is like ultimately his downfall. They leave, and Achilles is basically like, yeah, I'm gonna let him take Briseis, like whatever. And Patroclus is rightfully upset. And he's on his whole fucking, I'm gonna let this happen. He would deprive me of my honor, fucking whatever. And basically Patroclus has to go to Briseis and be like, yeah, they're coming to get you, and Achilles is gonna let it happen. I am so sorry.
This is sort of the catalyst, if
yeah.
you will, because in taking Briseis, who was a war prize for Achilles, like now she's one of the gang, but she's belongs to him basically. Agamemnon has slighted Achilles in the worst way possible by saying, you know, you're not deserving of this prize. I'm going to take it because of how cool and manly I am, and you're not going to do shit. And Achilles is basically like, fine. You know what? I'm not going to come out and play until you apologize. And then he sits his candy ass down, and that's what he does.
Then he doesn't move.
And then he doesn't move.
Yeah.
And Patroclus, he goes to Agamemnon and he's like, I'm telling you this because you will not hurt her. And I don't know what the fuck is going on with my boyfriend right now, but I'm not going to let you touch Bestie. So you need to treat her well, treat her right, and maybe Achilles will come around. But if not, y'all are going to die. And if you touch her, you are fucked and over with. You're all going to die. It's going to be terrible. Blah, 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 blah. The prophecies, all of that.
Well, I mean, okay, so he goes to Agamemnon, and basically he's like, you have already slighted him just by taking her. If you touch her or assault her, then you are really going to be in trouble, and the men will not respect you because that is an even bigger violation to Achilles. Which is fucked up that he has to fucking mind game it this way. But that's... Patroclus goes and is like, this is what's up, and Agamemnon is like, yeah, okay, I guess.
Like, sure, alright.
And again is basically like, well, just kneel, and it's fine. They get into a fucking argument because he's mad. Achilles is mad that Patroclus went and told him all of this. There is... Let's see.
Ugh.
When he
There's
speaks
a scene...
When he speaks at last, his voice is weary and defeated. He doesn't know how to be angry with me either. We are like damp wood that won't light.
They're so cute.
The beginning of hope.
Can we? Oh wait, but bro, you're skipping over.
Well, hurry up, we gotta go.
No, I know, I'm just insane about this book. So when Patroclus goes to confront Agamemnon, he slits his own wrist. He's like, see? Blood oath. Anyway, shut the fuck up while I talk. So when he gets back to Achilles is like, dude, what happened to you? And Patroclus says, I imagine saying you, but that is nothing more than childishness. Dude.
Achilles says, you chose her over me. Would you help him take it from me? And I'm like, this is the worst. And then we get they can't be angry at each other. And then he says, "You're a better man than I, Patroclus. You are a better man than me." And Patroclus is like, "Oh, don't say that. It's not true." And Achilles is like, "Well, don't say that just yet, because we might have made a deal with Zeus."
Oh yeah. Basically, while Patroclus was gone, Achilles had gone to speak to his mother, and Thetis somehow, whatever, they make basically Zeus owed Thetis a favor. And so they make a deal that Zeus will basically cause the Greeks to lose over and over and over again in an effort to push Agamemnon to apologize to Achilles. There is also a scene after this, or like at the end of this, where they're talking about this deal that is made. "He is half my soul, as the poets say. He will be dead soon, and his honor is all that will remain. It is his child, his dearest self. Should I reproach him for it? I have saved Briseis, I cannot save them all. I know now how I would answer Chiron. I would say, there is no answer. Whichever you choose, you are wrong." The question being, you ask a question that philosophers argue over. He is worth more to you, perhaps, but the stranger is someone else's friend and brother, so which life is more important?
Everyone's life is important.
There's a scene where Patroclus goes back to see Briseis again. No, this is not the scene. It's later. There's more fighting. The Greeks are having a bad time.
Odysseus by that she means they're getting absolutely slaughtered by the Trojans because Achilles is throwing a tantrum.
Ajax and Odysseus show up to be like, "Hey man, could you please fight?
Please help us out,
like,
man."
No.
Yeah, they have this discussion. Odysseus is basically like, the Trojans will break through the wall and burn the ship. Will you stand by and do nothing? Achilles is like, he has to apologize. And Odysseus again is like, you need to fight, blah blah blah.
The Cleopatra story.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Phoenix is like an advisor, sort of, who's tagged along with the Myrmidons, who is like a sort of a pseudo father figure to Achilles. And he sits everyone down and he's like, "Right, I'm gonna tell you a story. It's about this guy called, checks notes, Patroclus, and definitely not you, Achilles. And they had to go to a war, and it was real bad, and definitely not you, Achilles, said, well, you know what, I'm just kind of having a bad day, I'm upset. So, because you know, people think that I'm bad at fighting, so I'm just not going to do shit." And then Patroclus got so upset, she was like, "Hey, I know this isn't your heart, okay? This isn't you.
Look at me. This isn't you.
Look me in the eyes." So it's Cleopatra is who he's telling the story about. Said, "Hey, what are you doing? Everyone's dying.
They're all gonna hate you.
They're all gonna hate you because, hot tip, babe, if you let everyone die, no one's gonna be around to like you anymore.
And the ones who are going to be grieving the people they lost
are gonna hate you." So, the king, Meleager, who is definitely not Achilles, is like, "You know what? Okay, yeah, fine. Yeah, that makes sense." So he saves the day, but by the time that he does, it's far too late. Too many people have died, and everyone hates him because he let everyone die. And Achilles is like, "Your input has been noted, but not necessarily considered."
Yeah, like, thanks for the story, old man. I don't care.
Yeah, basically. Because the Phoenix uses the name Cleopatra because eagle-eyed viewers will spot that he swapped them syllables around. That's Patroclus. You know, he's doing it clever. So this wonderful story bounces clean off Achilles.
Lands flat in
Patroclus real upset.
Yeah, lands flat in his lap, and he's like, Oh, hey, that's a parallel to me.
Man.
That's a parallel to me and him. Oh,
so
no.
At this point, Patroclus goes to see Briseis again, and they have a conversation, whatever. Basically, he's like, how can we get you out if something happens? And she gives, like, what she wants to do. And he gets up to leave, and it says, she draws down the blanket, releasing me into the air. She cups my face in her hands. Be careful tomorrow, she says. Best of men, best of the Myrmidons. She places her fingers to my lips, stopping my objection. It is truth, she says. Let it stand for once.
So if you'll remember, a little while ago,
we'll rewind here.
Paying attention.
The prophecy.
Christ on a bike.
The prophecy said, the best of the Myrmidons, or we're not going to talk about how I said that. The best of the army will be dead before you are, Achilles. You will still be alive by the time that one dies.
Within 2 years.
Within 2 years, the best will be dead.
Yep.
I wonder
Thanks.
what this could mean.
Cool.
And it gets so bad, the Trojans storm the camp. It's terrible times.
They burn all the boats,
worst.
so now the Greeks can't leave.
Burn the boats, terrible times. Everyone is getting fucking slaughtered. And Patroclus is like, Achilles, please do something.
For the love of
Holy
God.
shit. And Achilles is like, no, I want Agamemnon's body, or I want him to come and apologize to me. And then he turns around and faces the corner, pissed off. And Patroclus is like, okay, if you're not gonna fucking fight.
People are dying, like, outside.
Literally
They're
screams.
delivering this dialogue over people screaming and boats burning and,
the flames, the smoke in the sky. It's all going bad. And Achilles is like, no, I don't want to. His chin's up in the air, all that, whatever. And Patroclus is like, listen, if you won't fucking do it, let me go on the battlefield wearing your armor and let me act like I'm you, because just your presence will be enough. I don't have to fight. I can stay on the chariot. I don't have to do anything. I just have to pretend to be you. And Achilles is like, damn, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
And eventually Achilles relents, and he, puts his armor on Patroclus and sends him out onto the battlefield with the army. He's like, let me and our army go fight in your stead. If you're not going to do it, let us, please. And so Achilles is like, all right, I guess, but you are not to get off the chariot. You are not to fight. You are not to engage. Just stand there, look pretty.
Don't kill Hector.
Do not kill Hector. Don't do anything of the sort.
Go out, do some donuts.
Come back, it'll be fine.
Then come back.
So he gets on the thing, he goes, and immediately abandons the plan.
He immediately starts fighting.
God, I love
spears.
Basically, he picks up a spear and he throws it and he hits somebody and he's like, holy shit, maybe I can fight. And so they're riding around, he's like throwing spears. The guy he's with, who is someone in Achilles' camp, a young man, is basically like, Patroclus, I don't think this is a good idea. And Patroclus is like, nah, fuck it. Fuck it, we ball. It's fine.
Like, shut up.
So they're doing all of this. The Greeks are excited that he's there. He kills Sarpedon, who is basically like...
Basically by accident. Son. He knocks him off the chariot, and then he's like, shit.
Which is
actually, so sort of stabs him after he's died.
It is actually
because he broke his neck.
It's actually kind of like an interesting parallel between like him killing Sarpedon and the boy he kills at the beginning. Like, completely by accident and in a very similar fashion.
Yeah.
That is good. Damn, you're good.
You're mine.
Yeah.
So they do all of this, and then so he stabs the fucking spear into Sarpedon's chest so that it looks like he actually killed him on purpose. And then he, like, has a fucking weird mental break and decides to try and climb the walls.
He tries to climb the walls
because he's like, you know what? All of this is Troy's fault. We're all getting older. Achilles will die. I'm done. Have at ye.
And so he goes and he climbs the wall of Troy. And when he gets to the top, because somehow he does, Apollo is up there. And Apollo's just like, ha ha,
it's like
picks him up by the scruff
flushed away
of his
with
neck.
a frog boots her off the edge of the ledge.
Literally. Like, Apollo picks him up by the scruff of his neck and flicks him off. And Patroclus is like, what the fuck? And so he goes and climbs it again.
And he tries again.
And Apollo is like, what is wrong with you? And flicks him again. And Patroclus falls to the ground. He's surrounded by Trojans. And his helmet has come off of his head, so they know he is not Achilles anymore.
He's not blonde.
He's not blonde. He's not a pretty blonde boy.
Sort of slow turns to look at Patroclus, and he's just like, shit.
And
this is an interesting line. The frozen silence is broken by the hoarse, angry screams of Trojans. My mind startles to life. I am unarmed and alone, and they know I am only Patroclus.
Yep.
Yes.
Ow.
And can we talk about how he describes a spear going over his head, barely missing him, feeling like a lover's breath?
Like a lover's breath.
Also,
so he gets kebabbed almost immediately.
Yes, what I think is interesting is like he's like fucking crab walking backwards to try and get away from Hector. And it's interesting because and he kind of says this, that he's not doing this out of any sense of self-preservation. He's trying to get away from him because he knows if Hector kills him that Achilles is gonna kill him. And then he does it anyway.
Yeah. I will point out another thing that I think is absolutely fantastic. Is that this entire book, up until this point, has been written in past tense.
Yes.
And then as soon as Patroclus decides that he's like, I'm gonna take Troy, it's in present tense. And everything past this is written in present tense. So, pin that.
That's sick. That's sick.
Because
to point that out
later,
to me.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But
and
we'll
even in, like, the face of death, all Patroclus wants is for Achilles to live. And
the last thing I think is Achilles.
Wow. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. And then we switch back to camp. And Achilles is, he's standing on a ridge, looking at
like
the
a dad
roar.
looking at a storm.
Yeah, like, man, that's a really big storm over there. I hope it doesn't come over here. I think we'll be fine.
I can feel it in my knees.
And
man,
he's
someone
like,
important has died. Patroclus will tell me who it was.
Yeah, Patroclus will come tell me.
This is where I started crying properly.
Yeah, this is where the hysterics
when
started.
I say crying, I was sobbing from here until the end of the book.
Yep.
Like, dude.
The first part that gets me when Achilles realizes that Patroclus is dead, he snatches for his sword to slash his throat. It is only when his hand comes up empty that he remembers he gave the sword to me. Man, what the fuck? Patroclus, he says, Patroclus over and over until it is the only sound. Somewhere Odysseus is kneeling, urging food and drink. A fierce red rage comes and he almost kills him there, but he would have to let go of me. He cannot. And Echo, the last bit of spirit, still tethered to my body, a torment.
This is disgusting. This is the worst.
Briseis shows up, and she's upset. And they tell him, of course, that Hector did it. And he tries to go right then and there. And Odysseus is like, you cannot. You need to stop.
A nice detail that I like is that Odysseus calls Achilles Pelides, which is son of Peleus.
Yes.
So, he's like, hey, chill out.
Please, you gotta rest. You have to eat. Like, please, you can do it tomorrow. You can get him tomorrow.
And then Thetis pulls up and is like,
Thetis,
hey, yes. Twink's dead. Nice job.
Twink's dead.
Do you fucking mind, Mom?
Oh my god. But before Thetis shows up, Agamemnon comes.
No, it's after Thetis shows up.
God.
Is it?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, it's after.
No, because I remember Thetis says, I'm glad he's dead. And I was like, I have a tab that says, fuck you, Thetis.
That's later. So she shows up before, and basically...
She shows up, she's like, hey, you're gonna go fight, right?
Yeah.
And then later, she's like, Lamau,
Oh,
Wingsted,
I
Rip
found it.
Bozo.
And then
You're right.
Agamemnon comes back and he's like, so
Damn,
we're cool now,
sorry for your
right?
loss.
He's like, yeah, we're cool now, right?
I
You see
hear
your
you'll fight
boyfriend killed
tomorrow.
Sarpedon? Achilles is like, I wish he had slaughtered the lot of you. Agamemnon's like, okay.
Literally, Achilles says, I wish he had let you all die. And Odysseus comes in and is like, we will leave you to mourn, Prince Achilles. And takes Agamemnon out of the room.
This fucking
the
scene
room.
with Briseis fucking takes me the fuck out. Basically,
Ugh.
he comes. Briseis is like cleaning his body, and he's telling her to get away from him, and she says, "Do you think you are the only one who loved him?" She says, "You care more for him in death than in life. How could you have let him go? You knew he could not fight." Achilles screams and shatters the serving bowl. "Get out." Briseis does not flinch. "Kill me. It will not bring him back. He was worth 10 of you. 10, and you sent him to his death. I tried to stop him. I told him to leave the beach. You are the one who made him go. He fought to save you and your darling reputation because he could not bear to see you suffer. You have never deserved him. I do not know why he ever loved you. You care only for yourself. I hope that Hector kills you. Do you think I do not hope the same?" he asks.
Dude.
Oh.
Fucking yeah, this is where the crying sort of stepped up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Okay, so this next paragraph, I have not stopped thinking about since I purchased this book. It's actually, I saw it on like a TikTok on Reels, and it's what convinced me to get it, because I was like, it shook me to my very core. And that is, he weeps as he lifts me onto our bed. My corpse sags. It is warm in the tent, and the smell will come soon. He does not seem to care. He holds me all night long, pressing my cold hands to his mouth.
Disgusting. This is absolutely the most mind-boggling, heartbreaking, the worst of the worst.
Oh,
I hate it here so much.
Oh my god!
And then the next day, Achilles is running into that fucking battlefield,
He's
and
like,
he
right.
is screaming for Hector. And
it's awesome.
And he is just doesn't give a fuck. And it turns out Mr. Hector stole Achilles' armor that Patroclus was wearing and is now wearing it. And we get one of my favorite lines that says,
"It's a shitty move."
The men stare as the two pass. It looks almost as if Achilles is chasing himself. And that line gives me chills when I think about it. And so, Hector is running, avoiding that man like nobody's business. And then they get to a river. And there is a god in the river, because of course there is.
God is the river.
Achilles fights God. Achilles fights a god.
Kills a river.
And kills a river, fights a god. And eventually, what happens after that?
He catches up to Hector eventually, and the armor doesn't fit Hector. So there's like a gap at his throat, and Hector is like, "Whoa, hey, whoa, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you?" But Patroclus is basically in spectator mode, like, no, put it down. And Hector's like, "Whoa, hey, all right, just give my corpse back to my dad, please." And then Achilles says, "There are no bargains between lions and men. I will kill and eat you raw."
Oh.
And then he stabs Hector through the throat. One thing about that line, which I think is fantastic, this whole book is fantastic, but this line is particularly pertinent because cannibalism is something that is reserved for gods. It's like one of the laws of men that they can get away with. It's like cannibalism, incest, like all those things that separate humans from everyone else. So when he says, "I will kill you and eat you raw," he's fully given up on his humanity and his compassion. Because he's lost Patroclus, right? So he's like, you know what? Fine, I'm done. I am a demigod. I'm gonna kill you and then eat you. Bitch.
And so that is exactly what he does. And then he drags Hector's body through the town and is like, "Look at this shit."
He drags it around Troy behind his cart, which is so funny. Like, it is.
And then
it's horrifying.
And he takes the body back to camp. And Agamemnon says, "You have triumphed today, Achilles. Bathe and rest yourself, and then we shall have a feast in your honor." And Achilles says, "I will have no feast." He pushes through them, dragging Hector after him. And then Thetis comes and is like, "Dude, you gotta eat." And he's like, "You know I won't." And she tries to touch him to like wipe away some blood, and he flinches away from her and says, "Stop." And Thetis says, "It is time to return Hector's body to his family for burial. You have killed him and taken your vengeance. It is enough." And Achilles says, "It will never be enough." Ooh wee. And then Patroclus tries to talk to Achilles in his sleep. And, you know, Patroclus says, "Give us both peace, burn me and bury me. I will wait for you among the shades, I will." And Achilles startles awake and is like, "Patroclus, I'm here. Wait, where are you?" And he realizes he's not there.
You guys ever think about how often Achilles must roll over to see, wondering why Patroclus is so cold?
Yeah.
And then remembers, because I think about that a lot.
And then he rises at dawn. He drags Hector's body out.
Basically, he drags Hector's body around to a point where even the Greeks are like, "Hey man, this is getting
dude, what the fuck?"
And
yeah.
Eventually Hector's father comes to him like in the middle of the night and is like, "Can you give me my son back, please, so that I can bury him?" And Achilles is finally like, "Yeah, I guess." And at that point, Achilles gets up and goes to fight every day, just kind of because, like, he just wants to die at this point, but, like, he can't. And this goes on for some time, until eventually, basically Paris kills him. Paris shoots him with an arrow guided by Apollo.
Yep. And
which, to be honest, I think this was an act of mercy.
Yeah.
It's like, Achilles is a shell of himself. He's not Aristos Achaion anymore.
Like,
he wants to be killed. That's why he doesn't move.
There comes a point where, during all of that fighting, Achilles is no longer called he. He is called it.
Yeah.
And because he's not him anymore. He's completely lost himself. But before he starts doing all that, Thetis comes and is like, "You know, your son at 12 is better than you are right now, so get it the fuck together, dude." And Achilles is like, "Well, I don't care. I'm gonna be dead anyway." And then Thetis says, "I am glad that he is dead. I'm glad your little twink boyfriend is gone." And then that really snaps Achilles, because of course it would.
Because holy shit.
Because why the fuck would you say that? And then he just fights and fights and fights until Paris takes him out. And then down he goes. But before this happens, before he is killed, he decides to finally put Patroclus at rest and burn his body and, gather his ashes. And while he's doing that, he says, "I order you all, when I am gone, burn me and put my ashes with his, and then bury us together so we can be together in the afterlife." And all of them are like, "Yeah, man, totally, we got you, bestie. Keep that in mind for later." And then Achilles dies. He gets taken out. And they're all trying to, decide what to do with him. Where to bury him, where to put the tomb. And,
well, they mix the ashes together.
Yeah, they mix the ashes together.
And Patroclus thinks, "Somewhere his soul waits, but it is nowhere I can reach. Bury us and mark our names above. Let us be free. His ashes settle among mine, and I feel nothing."
Sick. That was such a lie.
Vile.
So,
honestly, it's
diabolical.
It's not even an issue with the kings, because they are like, "Okay, we'll bury him here. We'll build a monument or whatever. It's fine." But then his shithead son shows up.
Buck-ass kid.
Basically is like, "Well,
like, my dad wasn't a gay."
Yeah, pretty much.
What?
Basically he's a shit, and the kings try and explain in nice terms, like, "Hey, this is what he wanted." And basically he doesn't give
Everyone
a shit.
likes Patroclus.
Everyone likes Patroclus.
And he's like, who's this rando getting buried with my dad? And everyone's like, I mean, he did ask.
He... fucking whatever.
He decides that the tomb will only have Achilles' name on it. And I guess in Greek myth, you can only pass on when your name is put on a tomb and you are buried.
Yeah.
So Patroclus is left.
Right. So he's kind of left, like, wandering.
For an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah, who knows?
At some point, Briseis tries to kill him, Achilles' son, and it doesn't work, and she ends up running, and she tries to swim across the river near where their camp was set up, and he throws a spear and kills her.
That little shit killed my girl. He killed my girl.
And then Troy falls. They vaguely mention the fucking Trojan horse and all this stuff. And then they're getting ready to leave. And
he has gone to the underworld, and I am here.
Yeah. They have all this fucking back and forth, and then they're getting ready to leave. Fucking Patroclus is freaking the fuck out, and he like whispers to Odysseus, and Odysseus is like, suddenly I feel a lot of guilt about the fact that we didn't honor Achilles' wishes. So he goes to his son and is basically again trying to plead and being like, hey, this is really what your father wanted.
Please do it.
When it doesn't work, Odysseus is like, well, I tried.
Yeah. So I also love this line. Odysseus stands but does not go. Do you have a wife? He asks. Of course not. I have a wife. I have not seen her for 10 years. I do not know if she is dead or if I will die before I can return to her. I had thought always that his wife was a joke, a fiction, but his voice is not mild now. Each word comes slowly as if brought from a great depth. My consolation is that we will be together in the underworld, that we will meet again there, if not in this life. I would not wish to be there without her. My father had no such wife. Odysseus looks at the young man's implacable face. I have done my best, he says. Let it be remembered, I tried. I remember.
Oh,
damn.
And then immediately another brick to the teeth with the Greeks sail and take my hope with them. I cannot follow. I am tied to this earth where my ashes lie. I curl myself around the stone obelisk of his tomb. Perhaps it is cool to the touch, perhaps warm. I cannot tell. Achilles, it says, and nothing more. He has gone to the underworld, and I am here.
And then Thetis shows up.
Yeah.
She's there to mourn her boy. And Patroclus is like, hey, bitch. I'm buried here. Help. And,
yeah.
And she's like saying nothing, doing nothing. Trying to pretend to ignore him. And, you know, he's like, you know, you said that Chiron ruined him. You are a goddess, cold and know nothing. You are the one who ruined him. Look at how he will be remembered now. Killing Hector, killing Troilus for the things he did cruelly in his grief. Perhaps such things pass for virtue among the gods, but how is there glory in taking a life? We die so easily. Would you make him another Pyrrhus? Let the stories of him be something more. And this leads to Thetis asking, what more? And Patroclus starts talking about all of the good of Achilles and all of the beauty of that boy.
All of the
and the things he loved
that he was capable of.
There is also a line in this scene that fucks me up. So he starts talking about the memories, basically saying that it's weird for him because he's so used to, like, not talking to Thetis and, like, preventing Thetis from getting at Achilles. But there's a line where he says, he's talking about it. They do not come as words, but like dreams, rising as scent from the rain-wet earth. This I say, this and this. The way his hair looked in summer sun, his face when he ran, his eyes solemn as an owl at lessons. This and this and this. Which we haven't touched on before, but is something that Patroclus says a lot in regards to his conversations with Achilles, of when they're talking, that they will just talk this and this and this. So this is an interesting like parallel to me, that this particular kind of phrase coming back up when he's talking about the memories.
Yeah. And before like he really starts getting into the memories, he asks, "Why aren't you with Pyrrhus, Girly Pop?" And she says, "He is dead. He was killed by Agamemnon's son." And Patroclus is like, "Ooh, for what? What's the tea?"
Ooh, drama.
And she says, "He stole his bride and ravished her." And he recalls Pyrrhus talking to Briseis before he murders her, and says, "He can take whatever he wants. Whatever I want," he said to Briseis. "Was this the son you preferred to Achilles?" And then she says, "Have you no more memories?" And he says, "I am made of memories. Speak then." And that's where he starts talking about all of the beauty and the wonderful human parts of Achilles that were glorious and shone like the sun.
I really like how Patroclus's dialogue isn't in quotes, it's in italics, because he's not speaking, because he is made of memories.
Yeah.
He's
right?
made of memories. And you know, he talks about like how at the end of the day Achilles was immortal. He might have been a demigod, but he was immortal. He was a human at the end of the day.
We also get another like weird sympathetic moment with Thetis where she talks about basically her experience from being assaulted essentially, and then, you know, having him and all of this stuff. And she's upset because she can't see him again. And then we get the memories come and come. She listens, staring into the grain of the stone. We are all there, goddess and mortal, and the boy who is both.
Oh my god.
God, that's a good line.
And then they're just hanging out. Her arms are crossed over her chest as if to hold some thought to herself. I have told her all. I have spared nothing of any of us. I could not make him a god, she says, her jagged voice rich with grief, but you made him. She does not answer me for a long time, only sits, eyes shining with the last of the dying light. I have done it, she says. At first I do not understand, but then I see the tomb and the marks she has made on the stone. Achilles, it reads, and besides it, Patroclus. Go, she says, he waits for you.
It's
always the last line that fucking gets me. Okay.
I'm actually crying again. God damn it!
And the final little bit is, in the darkness, two shadows reaching through the hopeless, heavy dusk. Their hands meet, and light spills in like a flood, like 100 golden urns pouring out of the sun. And that's how it ends. They are finally back together.
You gets me every single time.
Yeah.
He waits for you. Madeline Miller.
You know, I have a few words. I'd like to share a few words with you, Madeline Miller.
I would like to speak with you, ma'am. Because how dare you? Why did you have to do that? Why did you have to do that?
You just...
I remember being in absolute hysterics, like, when Patroclus died, and then, like, Achilles struggling. And then fucking Pyrrhus shows up, and I'm like, you know what? Now I'm pissed off, and the tears stopped for a while. And then finally, you know, the scene with Thetis and Patroclus, the tears started to come back, and I was like, oh shit, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And then I was in hysterics by the end of the book again, as one is to do. And so that is the Song of Achilles. We jumped around. There are probably like wonderful things that we missed and talked about, but this book is so much.
Wonderful things for you to explore yourselves.
Exactly. If you want to read it,
for the love of all that is holy, read this book.
You should. I genuinely think this is a book worth reading. It's a story worth experiencing, especially told in this way.
Yes.
It's my favorite book. It became my favorite book as soon as I finished it.
It is, like, there's also something so tragic about, like, you hit the point of no return with Patroclus dying and realize that there's, like,
you can't stop.
That there's also, like, another like however many pages
And that's
left.
not the end.
And you have to like continue to read, and like getting from Patroclus's perspective, like the kind of madness that Achilles falls into, and then like the heartbreaking realization that he can't even be with Achilles for however long it takes them to finish the war.
There's sort of not really a motif, but there's a reoccurring theme about how there is nothing Achilles can do that would make Patroclus hate him, right? Because when Achilles throws his tantrum, Patroclus is crushingly disappointed and rightfully horrified, I think. But as soon as Achilles dies, all Patroclus wants is for the two of them to be together again. And like he tries to speak to Achilles in his dreams, and he like tries to get Odysseus to speak to Pyrrhus for him. And like even after like the Greeks go home and there's nobody left and it's just Patroclus alone with Achilles' tomb, he just sits there
and
every day, because that's as close as he can get to being with Achilles without being buried properly.
Oh, disgusting. I haven't cried at a book like this in a hot minute. I'm an easy crier. I will always cry at a book. And I haven't cried like this one in a while.
I've never cried at a book before. Not even once. I've read some bangers. One, not a single time.
This one.
Diabolical piece of writing.
Diabolical. Madeline Miller, the woman that you are.
One thing that I saw about it online, about the whole book, is like the entire thing is written prose-wise like the best Hosier songs.
Yeah.
Just the reverence for, like, mostly for Achilles, but just the way that things are described is incredible. It's so well done.
Like, one of my favorite lines that we didn't really like touch upon because we were moving real fast, when they're kids and they start to become friends and they're playing games and Patroclus is obviously losing, he talks about how he doesn't mind losing because how could anyone be ashamed to lose to such beauty? And I'm like, oh, dude, you want me dead. Oh, that's what I'll it really
just die
is.
Then. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Awesome.
But this book is gorgeous. I think if you're down for a sad time, read it and feel the effects because it's gorgeous. It's just,
if you want to feel emotion stronger than you have ever felt before, read the Song of Achilles.
Read the Song of Achilles. It'll hit you right in your chest, right where you need it to go.
One thing that is really impressive about this book as well is that literally everybody knows how the story of Achilles ends, right? Everyone knows that he dies because he's just that famous. But Madeline Miller has managed to make not only fantastic characters out of Achilles and Patroclus and everyone else, but she makes you genuinely care about them and about what happens to them, even though every reader will know that they both die. And that is not an easy thing to do.
No, and she accomplished it very well. She did it very well.
We all cried.
We all cried. We all screamed. We
all cried.
It's a gorgeous story that deserves to be read, and I think everyone should. I think, especially if you want to get into Greek myth and you want a little stepping stone that's modern enough, and it's a well enough known story that it won't be super hard for you to get into, give Song of Achilles a try. Ether, do you have any thoughts?
Any closing thoughts?
I've already said most of my thoughts. Super well written. It is like emotionally devastating, but I think it's worth reading, especially if you are queer or into Greek myth, or just read it. I don't know. I
mean, that Venn diagram is a circle, but
it is an emotionally devastating book, and just us talking about it will never do it enough justice. So if you haven't read it, I highly recommend you read it. Just make sure you have a box of tissues with you, because it is not an easy read hard towards the end. So.
No.
Everyone who was like, oh yeah, haha, you'll cry. And I was like, we'll see about that. And 2 days.
Yep.
I cried for 2 days.
For next month, as a closing out, for next month, or for the month of July now, Our book is Summer Suns by Lee Mandelo. It is spooky. It is also gay. I can't wait to see what this will be. I've never read it, and I've never read anything by this author, so I'm intrigued to see where it'll take us. And I hope we all hope that you will tune in for that when it comes. Penguin, you have been an illustrious, wonderful guest star. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I had a wonderful time.
You're the first guest star.
Yeah, yay.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I feel really special now. Yeah. Well, thanks for the free water in the studio. I got my own dressing room and everything. Like complimentary robe and slippers. You guys take care of me so well, and I appreciate that. So thank you for having me.
Yeah.
We try real hard. Thank you all for
I'll
listening.
swing by again if I'm in the area.
When you're around. But thank you guys for listening to us yap for however long this will be. We don't know. Too long.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.